especially in the last few years. We're going to have to call a spade a spade. We're going to have to speak truth. We're going to have to speak truth to power. We can't keep looking through this rose-tinted lens at institutions and organizations and agencies like the United Nations when our children continue to die in the way that they're dying. When the United Nations is incapable of stopping or enforcing its own laws, its own rules, its own policies. What is the reason for the UN? And why are we so vested in the United Nations? I don't know. Especially on the background of all that is happening. I'm just tired of it all. I'm tired of all these agencies, these global institutions standing in spaces as gatekeepers and at the same time refuse to call out genocide, refuse to call out crime, refuse to probably acknowledge that they themselves can no longer do this. I don't know, at some point we are all going to have to speak the truth. So it is what it is, and we speak truth to power. We must not be afraid to speak the truth. Because even as we celebrate Child Month this morning, one of the most egregious things happening to our children across the world, and I called some of the places just now. Sudan. I should have Bujabant on Sudan. You know. Anyway, we find ourselves experiencing a transitional and in the middle of a transformational period. We're watching to see where it goes, but at the same time, we understand what we must do, what we should do, and how we should do it. The Third World War and the Fourth Reich, the fourth realm, if you will, the realm of technocracy, transhumanism, neo-fascism, or techno-fascism. This is where we find ourselves in this space right now. The Third Reich under Hitler began February 28, 1933. And that began with a decree suspending constitutional civil rights, a state of emergency. Does it sound familiar? Is it sounding familiar? Where decrees could be enacted without parliamentary consent. Does it sound familiar? And it was by way of the Four principle. Hitler stood outside the legal state and determined matters of policy himself. Does it sound familiar? Yeah. This is where we are. En route. Agenda 2030 is well underway. 4 years. And 6G technology is where we go on the backside of this. 6G technology. I know a lot of people think that I'm for 6G technology, and you also thought I was for 5G technology. But when we talk about what is to come and what is coming, it doesn't mean we are for it. It means that we're saying in this space, be prepared for what is about to be unleashed on us. And how do we? Let us create a space to talk about how we begin to prepare ourselves for that. And if not begin, most definitely continue to prepare a space for that. I keep saying in this space, and I'll always underscore this, this is the important thing to me. I think how we survive this period, it's agriculture. It's agriculture, inclusive of water and food and shelter. What we plant, we can use to make homes. So we find ourselves with Agenda 2030 almost, well, just 4 years into the backside of that. 4 years left for the backside of Agenda 2030. Even as we focus on mental health of our children for this Child Month, we should anticipate a mental health crisis, a mental health pandemic. And if we're not prepared for it, our inability to cope with this is going to be something that we've never seen before. because already we are witnessing in our schools massive percentages of our children have some form of mental health issues. And I don't know that we are prepared for it. And this is not new, no, this is chronic. This is ongoing. So as we graduate new cohorts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of children leaving our schoolrooms and the classrooms each year, we find ourselves with the working force or the adult workforce, that force that's supposed to be, and a lot of our young people are not working. This we know, but the cohort that's going into the working world are not prepared for what they're about to face, and we are not prepared, I think, for what is about to be unleashed, this rapidly rising psychosocial stressors that we're witnessing and that we're experiencing. This mental health pandemic is going to be the next pandemic. It probably is already the pandemic, the now pandemic. But we're also facing an energy crisis. So we're at a health lockdown in COVID, and we're about to have an energy lockdown. So much to talk about, and I know on this Sunday morning it sounds all doom and gloom, but if we are prepared and if we prepare our plots of land and our backyards and prepare our children and our homes for what is about to come, then we'll be all right. On the backside of it, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. But whether or not we are even preparing ourselves, I don't know. And especially on the matter of the energy crisis and what that is going to blossom out into, because, or mushroom, if you will, into. Because here's the situation. The crisis in West Asia right now, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. The system in some places appear to be absorbing the energy crisis shock, but it's not really. What has happened has already happened in terms of what we're looking at now. 2 months almost, is it 2 months that we're looking at? That goods and services, the supply chain is violently disrupted, and it is still closed. And as I'm talking to you, I'm looking on a report on Al Jazeera, which is at this minute highlighting this very same issue. For a minute there, I thought it was you, Peter, bringing up our stuff on this, but they're carrying the very same story. Facing realities is what they're talking about. And yeah, this is basically where we are. There's some media that's foregrounding it, some journalists who are talking about it. But for many of us, we kind of just, kite sewing and reggaeing and just moving through, dancing and partying. And sometimes it's a way to not be stressed, these stressors that we're talking about. But we can't be so concerned about not being stressed that we not become aware of what we need to do. And one of the things we need to do is to ensure that we're stocking up on stuff. Yeah, including having a conversation with our families about medicine, about gas and petrol and light, electricity and water, because water is also dependent on energy. And because this is where we are in Jamaica now. We haven't gone solar. We're not doing... let me take this break and come. So just before we go to our very first guest, let me just quickly tell you that this is World Press Freedom Day today. And I know that here in Jamaica, we love to boast about how free we are as a press. As a journalist and a practicing journalist in Jamaica, I've been practicing for over 40 years. Well, long over 40 years, practicing from a knee. I am in this period, this last... from COVID till now, and even before COVID, but definitely from COVID, this has been the worst time for journalists like myself who speak truth to power in Jamaica. So I don't know about the press freedom. Nobody's ever asked me any question. I see all of these surveys and results and statistics and where Jamaica is and so on. I've never been asked any questions, so I don't know about that. But on this World Press Freedom Day, in solidarity with the Media Freedom Coalition, who says, we, the members of the Media Freedom Coalition, recognize a vital yet increasingly perilous role that journalists and media workers play in conflict situations and the important link between a free media and both global and national security. And they go on to say the theme of this year's World Press Freedom Day is shaping a future at peace. At a time when international peace seems more elusive than it has been for a long time, a free, independent, pluralistic media can make an important contribution to both achieving and sustaining peace. And I'll read the rest of it later on. I'm going to go to the phone lines where my very special guest is standing by, Dr. Devon Taylor. Early in the morning, we're very happy to welcome the president of JABEM Online, senior biomedical research scientist in immunology, working in the biopharmaceutical industry in the United States. He's coming this morning wearing the hat of the founding president of JABEM. Devon, morning, sir. How are you doing?
Greetings, Cabo. Good to be here, you know.
I know you're watching and following a lot of what's happening on the island in Jamaica, not least of which is the mace. I didn't even say Nara, you know. Not least of which is the mace. Do you have anything to say about the mace before we go on? You didn't come to talk about the mace, but since the mace finds itself in the middle of the conversation.
Well, I mean, one thing I should say that the mace should have been thrown through the window so the process stop.
Yes.
And then that would give us, some more time,
Yes.
to really bring the people into the debate around NARA, because as I understand it, the power that colonial instrument that control our people's lives, it cannot, the business of the people cannot continue unless that mace is in place. So that means we should have just thrown this away and shut the process down.
You should have thrown our sister, who did so very well, by the way, to draw attention to the mace. Again, we have spoken about the mace from time to time in this space, but I do agree with you. So, Devon, there's a document that is, there's a press release from JABEM, which we want to talk about a bit, which was issued under your signature from JABEM, warning that the proposed National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026, which is NARA, poses a serious threat to Jamaicans' legal rights to access and to use the beaches. What are the core issues with NARA that impacts our right to use the beaches?
Right. So, I mean, just, to say that Jamaica know, and I'm not sure how much the nation really truly understand what this National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority is, and why it was set up, right? To say it, okay, this is the organ, this is the instrument that is going to be used to bring Jamaica, back from the devastation that Melissa, brought onto the island, right? Mm-hmm. And the government have secured some US $6.7 billion in financing to restore key infrastructure, in the country, right? And within that, the government of also, securing our is entertaining another 1.5 billion in potential private investment to move some project, what they call fast project, right? Across the coastal space in Jamaica. So NARA is primarily going to be operating in coastal spaces. And I want Jamaica to understand that when the Prime Minister laid out in his budget, what this project is going to look like and the location of these projects. These projects were primarily on the coastline of Jamaica. As we understand it, the entire town of Black River, all the coastal spaces, people who are occupying them businesses, most of these will be located mandatory through some kind of eminent domain application, meaning that the government will determine that you cannot live in these areas anymore, they're not safe, so we want to move you completely, right? This is going to happen in places in Hanover also, right? They're moving the road that moves you along the corridor there where Orchard Beach is, right? Move the road, I think 1.5 miles inland and open up wide swaths of real estate, and they're going to, invest tourism product in these. The town of Lucy, they're considering in moving that. The harbor down there in Opal, that is going to be, a tourism infrastructure. You come into Montego Bay, right? They're going to do the very same thing, so it's a massive tourism, project. They're going to move the town of Falmouth, right? So when you look at what this NARA is proposing to do in terms of the quote around reconstruction and resilience, it's a massive coastal project, right? And we understand it that over around 35% of the Jamaican economy, right, is tourism. With the way NARA is structured and how we are seeing it, right? And we're asking the government to really correct Jabem if we are wrong. Most of the economy now, I think more than 50% will move into a tourism kind of economy. What does that mean for Jamaica?
And that's a wider question to answer. This is a discussion that we must have. But to narrow it back down to what Jabem is saying and what you have said in the press release is that looking at this and it being such a massive coastal project, a disaster capitalism project that it is, that basically what this is doing is that this is undermining our beach rights and our rights to access a beach, which already there are problems with. So you're saying that this, looking deeply into this NARA policy document that they've put out, which has passed one house already, that this basically is going to be for us even more serious than we thought that it would be regarding access to beaches. Let us break it down, Devon, to say from what perspective? Because as it is now, I know Jabem is spearheading, challenging the colonial document, the Beach Management Act, and there's so many cases in court. I know that we're losing beaches by the minute as we speak in Jamaica, so access is already almost nil. What is NARA doing that is different from what is already in place?
Yes, and that's a very good question. And this is when we analyze NARA, we are using what is called the Prescription Act of 1882. This Prescription Act is based on continuous use and possession of a beach, a track to a beach, a roadway to a beach, the lands that are adjoining the beaches, right? So this tool is very important. Is practically the last remaining tool, the Prescription Act, that we can use to secure land rights.
Explain that to our listeners, because you talk about that a lot in this space.
Yes. So the Prescription Act of 1882 says that if you're using a track or a roadway, for a minimum of 20 years without interruption, without, someone giving you permission, without any deeds of consent, right, then you are entitled to use this space in perpetuity forever, right, because you have established customary common law use of the space, which Jamaicans have demonstrated common law use of the space across the entire island. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, the entire foreshore, all the fishing beaches, the recreational beaches, the river mouths, the river banks. Mm-hmm. We've been using these things in a customary way forever. Yes, and so we have customary common law rights to them. Now, when someone challenges that right, you use this Prescription Act to prove in the court that you do have that customary right. Mm-hmm. And so that now the court will now, allow you to file a case, and the court will rule on that case. And once the court rule on that case, the court will now in the Babylon system now legitimize your rights to that space forever. So no one can ever move you from there. That is a right that you gain through generational use of a space. And we, the Jamaican people, have been using beaches, rivers, the sea for generations. And what NARA is coming to do now through the instrument and how NARA is structured is to interrupt, is to extinguish, right? Is to incapacitate the Prescription Act of 1882 and allow now more displacement, more dispossession and disempowerment of the Jamaican people. If NARA is allowed to pass in its current form, it will extinguish, it will weaken, it will incapacitate, it will destroy our potential to use the Prescription Act to secure common law use of the foreshore. And that is alarming, it's a threat, it's a dangerous situation for us to be in.
And we can't underscore that enough so that our listeners understand, because this is something that because there's so much already at stake where human rights are concerned in the island. From time to time, when it comes to land ownership, land rights, and access to land, prescriptive right acts, this is where people go. Even government uses that from time to time, because that was a discussion around the Marlon Marcus Messiah Garvey's home in St. Anne's Bay. This is basically where they went. But
well, I should say the government uses the Land Acquisition Act of 1947 to take spaces. That's kind of like an eminent domain act, right? If they do think that they need land and spaces, and that's what.
No, I should say recognize. Even the government, they recognize this, don't they? Because this is why. In the whole conversation with around Marcus Garvey's house, why people were given another home, understanding that even though you have no proof of land ownership, that we understand this through the Prescriptive Rights Act, and so people were moved into another space because obviously them take it from them through that very same eminent domain clause that you're talking about, so that it is well recognized. So how is it hidden somewhere in the act that people did not recognize that this was there? Because is this why Angelo took up the mace? How?
No. This is, and I should say, Jabem is making a submission, a formal one to the government of Jamaica, highlighting how NARA is doing this. You see, when government and their drafters of all these policies, this is why it's important for us to understand who drafted the Beach Control Act of 1956.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
what was the intention of doing that.
I do have to take a break. Hold your horses for me.
Yeah, so what we're saying right now is that, the way all these policies are drafted, they will draft them in ways to really covertly undermine rights that they think would really prevent them from moving the way they want to move. Now, taking the coastline from the Jamaican people has been a long, plan of the elite, the big man, and the government, right, for their capitalist friend who, sequester wealth, to give the wealth inequality gap that exists is because of the elite taking more on their fair share, and this is what this act is going to do. So what NARA will do, and how NARA will do so, is interrupt our continuous use and possession of the spaces that we have customary rights to, right? Because
without considering, because NARA is what? Because how does NARA work? So that our listeners understand. Because if you interrupt this, what rights do you, what options are available to you to us, we the people, to challenge this as we are challenging things in the court now? How is NARA different?
Well, you see, Cabo, that's the thing here, right? How do we challenge these things? The court offers a space to challenge them. But as I said, interrupting our continuous use, right? That, the government will identify a space or a private investor will identify a space. And because they have money, they will say, we want this. And the government will, use the power of NARA. Now, Section 23 and 24 in NARA, right? Now, NARA will have a CEO. That CEO will report to the minister who portfolio NARA is. And I bet you could guess who that is right now. And that Section 23 empowers the authority to step in if, their challenges to a space that, they really want, right? And if, the CEO is not getting the necessary, permission, the necessary, a right to really, use the space for what they want to use it for, they will ask the minister to come in. And the minister under NARA is vested with supreme power to grant an approval, right, with the same legal force as any relevant authority, such as the NRCA, right? So any zoning requirement, any procedural safeguard, the minister can override all of that for this project to go forward. So when we stand up and we says, no, this is prescriptive right space. The the CEO can just, link up the minister and said, no, we need this. And the minister can say, go ahead and start this project. So there is an executive override that is in NARA, that rights-based claims can be overridden in fast manner. Now, we still can challenge this in the court, but the pace at which this is going to move, it's going to outpace how the prescriptive act can function.
How does as far as I know you probably don't have time to look at this yet, but the ruling in the Supreme Court last week, the Bengal case, which I'm going to be speaking with Wendy Lee later on this morning about that, it seems to have, I don't know, and you're not a lawyer yourself, you're a scientist, but I think that it must have some kind of relevance to...
It does. It does. So the Beach Control Act of 1956, right, falls this regulatory power falls under NRCA. NRCA reports is a component of NEPA. NEPA sits in the office of the Prime Minister. Under those policies, the Prime Minister function as a king over these legislation. So if NRCA comes in and says, well, we don't think that this should go on, the minister of the final say, right? The minister is powerful and can overrule the regulatory body. And that is what happened in the Bengal case, is that when NEPA is pushing back and saying, this is disastrous, it's going to destroy the environment, and we should not proceed with this, the final say rests with the minister with that supreme power, which was the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister can overrule, because the checks and balances in Jamaica are weak, because they're based off a colonial logic and ordering, where the king and all his rulers were the ruler of the day. So we have maintained the colonial architecture in our environmental framework, in our regulatory framework, and give the minister the power to be king. And
I think that
reform is necessary.
And I think this is exactly where you go. Whether it is a mace being taken up and this whole, the mace is the outrage against somebody like anyone touching the mace in Parliament, and we saw what happened with Angela Bornberg, who touched a mace a few days ago. The outrage, people are apoplectic. The outrage is greater than outrage against someone who sits in Parliament who's on tape beating his girlfriend. The outrage is greater than the children who are being killed daily, the incest and rape and violence against women and children. The outrage against somebody touching the mace in the Parliament of Jamaica, and specifically in the seat of a speaker, is greater than the outrage against a man who allegedly beat his wife on camera, or his girlfriend, who sits in Parliament. Is greater than our children who are being killed, whether it is by police or otherwise, is greater than the missing children. And this is what not shocked me, but it's what really makes me mad. The level of outrage against somebody touching a colonial relic. Right, as opposed to what's happened to the children.
To the bottom of the sea.
Well, we do. I do agree with you, and you mentioned constitutional reform. So that constitutional reform is needed across the board. And one of the things you pointed that I want to underscore a bit, Devon, is to say between NARA and the DRMA and everything else that we have seen happening over the last few years, Jamaica now has a king. Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, is really from His Majesty's Privy Council is really investing within himself all the powers of the monarchy that the mace represents. Jamaica really does now have a king.
We do have a king. We do have an...
And I don't mean Charles.
Yes, and we do have an authoritarian structure in place. We pointed this out when the powers of the environmental ministry was ripped from it and placed in the office of the prime minister. We posted about this. We wrote a press release about it. We alerted the nation that you cannot have the concentration of power in one individual who can wield it at will. We talk about it. It manifests itself in that Supreme Court ruling that the Prime Minister overruled a process and that was illegal and it was struck down in the court. We are saying that NARA constitute those same exact power. They do have the executive override, the step-in clause, section 23. Look at it. Look at section 24 that contains the supreme power that will allow this kind of overruling to happen. Look at section 14. The Prescription Act will also be undermined by the confidentiality clause that says there's no obligation to release official documents, that the prescriptive right claims will be needed and dependent upon. So when we do an ATI for information to support our claim, this policy is saying that no, you should not release these. So there's a secrecy regime that is built into NARA that will impair and affect how the prescriptive rights move. The other is that there's an omission of mandatory rights assessment. When you do certain projects across the island, you have to examine what rights of the people here are we violating, right? What due process the people should have in this process. NARA is saying that there's no requirement for that. So they're not going to look at, prescriptive rights claim to say the public have prescriptive rights to this space, and so we should not move forward. So that's another way NARA is undermining the the Prescriptive Act of 1882, right? And there is what we are looking at, what we call the asymmetry of power in this legal way, where the government have all the regulatory tool and the money, right, to support NARA while the public has nothing. So when we, the public goes in to try to fight for our prescriptive rights, we are going up against the state. And this case that we're looking at, the burden is on the public. We are lacking the resources, right? We're lacking, money. We're lacking, resources around manpower to help us to gather evidence, to represent us in the court, right? And so those kind of power dynamics also put us in a position of, we are weak, right? Because of the undue burden that sits on the public to really, formulate their rights in the system. And so NARA, through these, 5 methods of interruption of continuous use, executive override based on our rights to the space, the restriction of the evidence, right, the omission of rights, under NARA with their secrecy clause, and the power of the government, the concentration of the power in, section 24 that give the minister that ultimate power will extinguish the Prescription Rights Act. And so when those bulldozers are moving, when those projects start, when the fast nature of it, we cannot catch up, and they will destroy our means of securing rights.
Our backs are not yet against the wall, because a lot of what is unfolding, the majority of the Jamaican people, we're talking over their heads. They do not understand what is happening. We're not using the Jamaican language. We're using all kind of big words that Jamaican people really do not understand. Talk to any teacher in Jamaica, and they will tell you in any traditional high school or non-traditional high school, how many students leaving out of there that cannot read. Jamaican people do not understand a lot of what we're saying. We're going to have to talk to our people in a language that we can understand. And I'm not saying that we don't. I am saying that we are intelligent and we can understand if this is if people talk to us in the language that we can understand. So we're going to drop the parliamentary language. What are the demands that Jabem is making now regarding NARA. NARA is passing through. It passed one place already. We're gone. Senate now?
It is now before the Senate. What we're asking...
Father Abraham, what we Christians are, who lend out money gratis. I'm quoting Shakespeare in the middle of the interview. Go on, Devon.
No, what we're saying is that we need mandatory audit of all the prescriptive rights spaces before NARA touch anything. So we want an independent and documented examination of prescriptive and customary rights claim to anywhere NARA is going to apply. So we want that to be done. We want the law to recognize our prescriptive rights case before this. So they have to amend NARA. We would prefer NARA be extinguished, to be abolished, right, and removed. It's not a necessary piece of legislation, right? We want explicit protection of the public and customary rights. We're calling for that. So they should prohibit any approval of any project that would restrict, right, our customary rights claims. So, right, we want to affirm that the foreshore remains a public commons and guarantee uninterrupted access for traditional and customary uses. We want that amendment placed inside there. We'd like a limitation on the ministerial override. We want to limit the power of that minister that is going to now override NARA, override any kind of, orders. You have this town and country planning order that protects certain spaces. The stepping order allow the minister to really override those. We want those things to be limited to provide exclusion for all designated fishing beach, recreational spaces, river mouths. We want the minister power to be limited so they can't override those. And we want binding consultation with the community, right? So I want to know, say, when they come down a Falmouth, or when them come in a Orchard Beach or down a Black River, right? When them come down in a Montego Bay with the Ipswich, where they're now going to take One Man Beach. One Man Beach is now falling under NARA, right? Under TEF, they're controlling that space. That is going to make them now fast to be able to take it. And I'm warning my brothers and sisters in Montego Bay, where we're fighting for Providence, you are now going to lose One Man Beach if we are not able to protect it. So consult, call Jabem, make we move fast on that, right? Now we're talking about, we want the to repeal Section 14 in NARA that grants them the secrecy that they can move without publicly disclosing the project documents. We're saying no to that. You have to amend, you have to remove that space out there. And I think it is necessary, Cabo and Jamaica, that an independent Coastal Rights Commission be put in place, right? That will look at all of the complaints that are being made in real time, right? Move as fast as this bill, that this commission will be able to independently look at prescriptive rights claims, look at, what we're losing in the space, right? Before these things can end up in court, which can take a long time. And before we know it, we do not have a beach. We lose our fishing beaches. Right?
And when you talk about beach, we talk about beach a lot, but we're talking about people's livelihood.
Absolutely.
Because when you talk about the whole fishing industry in Jamaica, that is one whole thing. Then you talk about access to land. There's so many different industries that are satellite of your ability to access the beach. That Jamaican people, I think, at some point, and I hope it is not too late, that we understand how serious this thing is. It was serious before NARA. It is even now more serious and more urgent. So I hear the demands being made by Jabem. Where does Jabem go from here? Because the press release is out. Did you write directly to the whoever, the minister, the parliament,
yes,
the chair?
We are moving this to the parliament.
Yes.
So the parliament, we're laying this out, hook, line, and sinker. Mm-hmm. We're letting them know exactly a formal complaint, how this is hurting the law, a law of rights, a law where allow Jamaican people to due process in the court system, in the system, mm-hmm. that this will be impacted. NARA will impact this. And if they fail to recognize how serious this is, then we have other measures that we must take together as the Jamaican people. And this is an appeal to the nation,
Yes.
Right? It's an appeal to Jamaica to say that our rights will be violated by NARA. Our rights will be extinguished by NARA. The way we, as poor people, as sufferers, right, as the descendants of enslaved Africans in the country, move to protect ourselves. The one little policy where we have Bob Marley Beach a fight for, Little Duns a fight for, Mama Bay a fight for, Blue Lagoon and Providence.
And other lands. And other lands.
And
that them
lands
says crown land that we have been, our ancestors from Italian till this day have been occupying.
Exactly. This one piece of thing where we shouldn't even need it.
It's a land grab.
We shouldn't even need this.
It's disaster capitalism.
It's
wickedness.
Ultimately disaster capitalism.
We are going to have to take a stand even if we're sitting down. And I know that Angela touched the mace. And it's a good thing Angela touched the mace, because what she did, I don't know if she recognized it, but she's an intelligent woman. What she did at the end of the day was to bring to our attention, not the mace, but this conversation that is going around in Parliament that led to her touching the mace, which is NARA. So make we stop talking about the mace, which we don't give two figs about until we get rid of the King of England and the monarchy, because it's one and the same, and talk about what was happening in the Parliament, why Angela Brown Burke touched the mace. And as you said before, she should have take it up and dash it way out a door, and we see what happened. And I think Stephen Golding has said the very same thing too.
And I think you're correct, right? The mace is not the problem right now, right? What is the problem is that NARA is moving at lightning speed to become law of the land.
Hitler business.
Further
fascism.
Harm the Jamaican people. And in serious and consequential ways. I can't tell you anymore, Jamaica, that right now, this tourism product, which is a plantation tourism product, right, undermines our people, right? It exploits our people, slave wages, slave condition on the coastline to support this tourism product, right? Displace us from land. Take the fishing beaches them, 0.6% of the coastline, over 2.8 miles, we really have can access our beaches them. Understand this. And this policy that they are going to put in place is going to take more and more and more and more. How much more should we bear? You can't have a law passed in your land that is taking away rights from you to land, rights to sea and rights to beaches. Destroy any little piece of legislation that you have which allow you to protect yourself. And how can that happen? We must stand up and tell the man them say NARA cannot pass in its current form.
That is the bottom line.
When it compromises the rights of the people, and at that job they must say, and they must overs and understand that. And me ask the eye them, you must get up and raise a voice against this act in real ways.
And remember, remember, this has nothing to do with politics. This is not JLP, PNP business. This is what we have to get out of our heads. This is we the people business. This is a situation that is unfolding. We warned you about the DRMA, and you saw what that did to you in COVID. It's worse than the DRMA. As a matter of fact, what it does, it balances the DRMA. Both of them are working hand in hand. I've been looking at this thing very closely. They are working hand in hand. The NARA and the DRMA. And this is why we said it's a Fourth Reich. It is fascism. This is a kingdom now. The Prime Minister has become the King of Jamaica, or is on his way to becoming a king. Now, what is this, a monarchy? And we already have somebody called Charles III, where we need to dash about the mace and the throne and the seat that represents Charles and the monarchy in Jamaica. There's so much to talk about. But what they're doing without us, because they're doing something about us without us. And all of it has to do with greed and money grab and land grab and a sellout too. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, we're warning you about that ministry from day one. Devon, we're totally out of time. Let me give you a minute to just wrap this.
This concentration of power by NARA, right, will hurt the nation, because it's a cycle of how these projects get approved, right? The project will run by a CEO. The CEO reports to the minister. Rich, right now is the Prime Minister. NRCA, that they will go to ask whether or not they can move forward, right? Falls on NEPA. NEPA reports to the Prime Minister, right? UDC in the office of the Prime Minister, right? All these NLA, the Commissioner of Lands in the office of the Prime Minister.
The Ministry of Environment is
right?
where?
So the powers, the regulatory powers around environmental matters, around approval process, town and country planning, land utilization commission, right? NLA, the whole thing is in one office and controlled by one man, right? That will sit down over this. So that's your king. And
that's your king. And the wife of the king, the queen, sits as the Speaker of the House of Parliament. The conversation.
Give thanks, and we're asking people them say right now we have a lot to lose, right? So let's put it on the line. Let's get up and fight so that our rights are not further eroded under NARA. And that is what is happening. So help us to make the argument to the leaders of the country, whatever means it's going to take for us. But NARA cannot be passed when it undermines our rights to the coast and will further displace us, dispossess us, and disempower the Jamaican people and discriminate just like how the Beach Control Act is, and further push us down this part, in a Jamaica. Please, may I ask support the move.
Is my sister friend Natisia Bohad Singh, attorney at law, human rights advocate. Watch her now, just a jump in. And she's been standing by. I know this. So my apology. I know you've been ready from 7 o'clock. All right. So she is a human rights advocate and specialist in global human rights issues in the areas of gender development, peace, security, and reparatory justice. She is a founder chair of the Children of the Ma'afa Recognition, Justice and Development Project, which is a civil society initiative. She's a recipient of the UN Human Rights. Listen, she is a recipient of a lot of stuff, and she is joining us. Welcome. Yes.
Just said it and done.
There you go. Welcome. Thank you so much for your patience and giving 15 minutes clear to our friend Devon Taylor.
Yes. I yield the time because I was quite intrigued with the conversation. It's a much needed discussion. So I yielded the time gracefully.
There you go.
To Devon.
I hope that in the future he'll yield back.
Yield some time to me when I need it the most.
When you
right?
need it, yes. But here we are in May 3 today. And so we're in the middle of Child Month, and of course, this is for me. We always spend some time to talk about our children more than we usually do during the month of May. That is just Jamaica generally and the world, and it's okay. They should always be on the agenda. But one of the things I know you do, and every time you come here, last time you were here, the time before that, and the time before that, one of the things that you always foreground is children and the rights of children. So I want to go there now to talk a little bit about, especially within our Jamaican context, because what you pointed out about four weeks ago when you were here, was it 4 or 5 weeks ago, within the context of the shooting in Montego Bay
yes, that was ongoing. I think it was a couple of weeks before, and then when the incident happened,
right,
and we had touched the convention on the rights of the child.
And one of the things you underscored is the extent to which these are not necessarily known, and even if they are, the extent to which Jamaica acts upon them. So let's talk about that. What should we know about the convention and the rights of a child?
Well, you said some really interesting things this morning when you started your opening around the rights of the child, and
that's not what you want to say, but hey. Cheers. Get your coffee.
Let me ground it, because yes, you were correct. You started off by pinpointing the universality of the issue, the fact that it needs a top-down approach, and that is so because when you look at the picture around the world, it will locate what we're dealing with on the ground. So we have, for example, an estimated 520 million children That's like 1 in 5 globally living in conflict zones. So when you mention, for example, what is happening with children, you have that number is significant. And to think that when you start to zoom in on the areas, the largest number we can locate is on the continent of Africa. So if you even can start there, and I always say when I come in this space, this is the Africa Forum. So everything I do, I make sure I take it from through those lenses, right? When we started to look at international instruments, we note that when local like countries are localizing their laws, what they do is they look to, for example, the convention, and then they emulate and put in the necessary parts. So in Jamaica, you have the convention, the legislation on the rights of the child. That's one. And then they went a step further in 2018. So the legislation was 2004, but they went a step further as they started to locate some of the problems that we're having with our children. And they also created the Child Diversion Act. Now, when you look at the Child Care and Protection Act in Jamaica, what it really aimed to do, when I say aim versus the practicality, because most of these things are in theory, but we are always as advocates stressing the implementation aspect, because you always have these nice things written down. And I'm not saying that the organizations are not doing a very good job of it, but there are parts that through conscientious grounding, we have to do more. So the Child Care and Protection Act really stems to the root of child abuse, violence against children, and really just creating a safe environment for children. And of course, the Child Diversion Act, it goes into more specific issues when it comes to children in conflict with the law, and kind of help to kind of streamline the conversation around rehabilitation. Yes? So we have these two localized approach, which really, if you look at some of the tenets of the Child Care and Protection Act, it really mirrors the conventions on the rights of the child. What my contention was when I came into the space the last time, when I spoke about the untimely passing of young fat man, as we affectionately call him, was that the theoretical framing cannot just be there, and we don't look at the interlocking realities of some of these legislations we have. So the inextricable interwoven resources. What I mean is, if you're going to talk about a healthy environment for a child, the mental health as a theme is this month, and creating a healthy environment for a child, you have to understand and underscore that you have to create a healthy environment for the family and the parents.
How does Jamaica deal with this? Because it seems to me as if we're not even creating it for the child, much less the family.
Right, but I'm saying that it's not a separate ideal.
Got the point,
you can't protect, right? You can't protect. You can't have a legislation which protects the child from violence, but the environment in which the child has to endure is inherently violent. You can't, for example, have the article which talks about the child's right to life, and can have police and soldiers going into communities at a whim, kicking off doors. That doesn't guarantee the right. So I think I'm saying that the environment that you create in a society will guarantee the very right that you are saying a child has. It can't be just looked at as a separate and detached right. And so it's always a call for a more inclusive conversation around the stability of a nation. So let me just say this. When we touch on war zones, right? The children are not really, unless it's a child soldier, which is a problem in itself. Children are not really involved in the wars. Most of these wars that you see that they are the casualty in. But the environment is going to be the very reason why you're going to have these casualties. If war is happening and there is no accord on peace, there's no prevention, as you were saying this morning, that you have all these war-prone areas and things. If you are going to have a conversation around protecting the life. The life of a child, you're going to have a conversation about how stable do you make this nation? What is the policy to prevent such atrocities? So when I say the top down approach, that's the conversation.
Point is well taken and well said too. So that when we talk about structural violence, we're moving it into a whole other situation. Hospitals, for example, that our children, not just our children, but adults, of course. So we see the situation that we face when we go into the hospital spaces, our interaction with the security forces in our communities and in just particular communities in Jamaica.
Right.
So that to what extent is Jamaica then recognizing the urgency of this, and from where you stand, what are you seeing happening in terms of? I know it's a big question, but are you seeing any changes over time? Positive changes?
Because of how I do my work, Cabo, I'm always going to have to reason in another way.
Go ahead.
So, for example, I was the attorney at law for Jamaica Aid Support days gone by. And within that scope, when we start to talk about people living with HIV, for example, my job was also to deal with children who were orphaned as a result of parents living or succumbing, to HIV infections. And therefore, the approach that was needed from a ministry standpoint, because the Ministry of Health is in charge of the very area that I discussed, would have been an approach that should zoom in on the realities of a child who lose a parent or two from HIV infection, but also the aspect of stigma that had to be a foregrounding then, right? So I'm saying, dealing with the lives of children, as we said, and I'll repeat, is going to have to be about the reality and what we call in human rights, the multiple aggravated features that children have to endure in any society, and it's going to be particularized by the society you live in. So Jamaica, which based on the study I have done and other studies, has embedded chronic violence at every level in our society. Talking about the mental health, for example, the theme of Child Month cannot just be about locating a child and depression that they're going through. It has to go deep into the causes, which, as you said, the area, the community, the parentage, the
so
schools.
that the focus is not on the symptom, because if you tackle this issue from the source of the issue, the cause of the issue, then ultimately you'll get to the symptom. But we tend to be focused.
Jamaica, as your question, so Jamaica, yes, has legislation. There are all these agencies that will step in when you need to deal with the problem. Obviously, I explained it. I explained the legislation. But what I always want to see more is that this, what do I call it? Not a kind of piecemeal situation either, but a more focused approach to the locale, the problem. So when we do research, for example, International Decade for People of African Descent, right? When we went to this event, when they were trying to get more topic areas to be discussed, this was about 2024 November. We went to an online event, Geneva. Myself, Dr. Angela Bromberg, I'm afraid to call her name right now because
remind me because you're reminding me now, and we're going to have a conversation. Because if so, let me get this from you, because we talk about Geneva in a little while, but let me ask you a question. It seems to me as if, and I said this to Devon earlier, that the outrage from the Speaker of the House. I do not this is, I know you deal with gender issues. This is not male or female issue to me.
Go ahead,
the outrage from the Speaker of the House and the outrage from so many within the Parliament against one person touching this colonial relic, this symbol of colonialism and slavery and oppression and imperialism and empire. If we had just a scintilla, just a small amount of that outrage against men who rape children, against incest, against violence against children, against police killing children, how might that change the situation in Jamaica? And I'm talking coming from that space.
Yes, and absolutely. And, I made my own observations because I was watching the debate very live.
Yes.
And I was, and full disclosure, for Dr. Angela Brown-Burke and I are friends, and we do work together, conscientious work, not necessarily political work, but conscientious work. And that's why I mentioned, for example, that we went to the event for Geneva. She helps my children of the Mahafa a lot when it comes to some of the things.
In that case, you stay right where you are. We're not going to let you go because our time is up, but we need to give you a little extra time. Let me take a break. Hold on to. Thank you so much for staying with us, Natisia Bahad Singh. So as we went into the break, we posed a question about that outrage in Parliament against someone touching the mace, which, when you put it in context, this is a colonial relic. And one of the things that you said is that, so you follow this, and I said to Devon this morning, the context of this is very important. You are following this. You have also made a disclaimer to say you are, and I'm not hearing you. I'm not quite sure why I'm not hearing you. Are you muted? Check and see if you are muted. No, okay. So help me, Peter, because it's all up and running, but I'm not hearing Natisia. All right, try again, Nats. I did something on the board. I don't know if it's working. No. So we're not hearing Natisia. But to put this in perspective, and for our listeners who do not know, so there was a parliamentary debate on NARA that we just heard Devon talked about just now, and how NARA will affect our rights to access the beach, or right to land, the Prescriptive Rights Act, and so on. And that debate was a very contentious debate because, as you heard from Devon, it is taking away. And I wouldn't even say hidden, but yes, hidden in that. I'm not hearing that. Help me here, Peter, please. All right. So the problem with this is, it's a contentious act. It was a contentious debate, and we had a situation where a member of Parliament during the debate, got up and touched the mace, and in so doing, it still is a firestorm in Jamaica. All right, so I'm not hearing. Is it us or Natisia? All right. All right, it's pretty strange. They have muted you. It must be the Pegasus. They have totally muted you because they figured we were going to come back with some really strong statement. So we're seeing you. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing Natisia. But I can tell you, we haven't done anything different in the studio. We just went for a break. And here we're back, and we're not hearing Natisia. So, and Peter tells me he doesn't even know what is causing that. And we can take a very good guess, right? Because we don't know what caused it either. But anyway, so it's an ongoing conversation in Jamaica. The mace is a symbol of colonialism. And I suppose you know what the mace is, MACE, look it up. It is a relic of slavery, colonialism, and the British imperialism in Jamaica. In the British Parliament, it has the same kind of sacredness. It's a sacred symbol in Parliament, whether it's in Britain or in any of the British overseas territories. Jamaica is having a conversation about constitutional reform. All of a sudden, that conversation has stopped. But what this is telling us is that constitutional reform or no, Jamaica has no intention of going there. There's a kind of an outrage on the island about what happened on both sides. So some people are saying, but this is a colonial relic. some people are saying that, as you heard from Devon, they should have thrown it outside. I think I saw where Stephen Golding, the president of the UNIA in Jamaica, said something very similar. I mean, he was so angry, I can't even read his post on my program because he's using African language. That's very good language, because we're going to figure out at some point what we're going to do with the Lebombo Bone and the Lebombo Mountain. But outside of that, there's also the other side where people felt that and still feel that how dare you touch this sacred relic? How dare you? Who are you to touch this? Who are you to? This is sacred to the parliament, and if you touch this, it's a disrespect. You're talking about a piece of stick that coated over and that looked like it must have gold plated. That's what you're talking about, and all that it does, it comes with, and I hear people talking about it come from Egypt and all them something there. Well, if it come from Egypt, I could put an ankh inside there. Put an ankh in the parliament, right? Since Egypt it come from. The most sacred symbol out of Egypt is the ankh. So I could do that. So it's an ongoing conversation on the island here in Jamaica. An ongoing vitriolic conversation, and people are taking sides. To me, it doesn't matter one way or the other. As a matter of fact, as I said before, I really do not care about the mace and the lifting of the mace and the whole story. What I am more concerned about is the conversation that was happening, the debate that was happening that led to the lifting of the mace. We still must talk about that. We heard Devon talk about the importance of knowing what is in that document, the importance of standing up for something, even if you're sitting down. And also, the wider conversation is that, so yes, the House can be outraged. Parliamentarians can be outraged. The Speaker of the House can be outraged. But I want to see that same outrage for our children, against structural violence. I want to see that same outrage against structural violence in Jamaica. When our children are harmed, when they touch our children, I want to see that same outrage, because it seems as if we can do that. All right, so I'm not quite sure what's happening, so I'm not hearing Naticia still. And what I'll do, if we can go to Prime Eye, because we are going to make a connection to Ghana. And my next guest, Naticia, thank you so much. If we can get you back, we most certainly will. Mutala Muntari is Prime Eye. He is a Ghanaian media strategist, a broadcaster, and Pan-African thought leader with over 2 decades of experience shaping public discourse across radio and television. As a former general manager of a Class Media Group, that's Class FM, Accra FM, and CTV, and a chief executive officer of Network Broadcasting Company Limited, which includes Radio Gold and Monty FM. And you remember Radio Gold because we have been linking. Tell me what you're telling me. Naticia is on? Yes. All right, but I'm not hearing her. All right, she's waiting. Okay, so I think she's coming up on WhatsApp now because I'm seeing her here. Oh, but where did it go? I didn't accept. Can I get her again on WhatsApp? Because she came up here on this computer. Peter, send her back. I'm not sure what's happening because let me go to WhatsApp here. We're doing all of this live on air. But you would have heard by now, while we wait to get Naticia up again, that there was an orchestrated, coordinated coup against Mali. And Prime Eye is also loading. Okay, here's Naticia. So let me see. Okay, do we have her? No. All right, somebody needs to come and tell me what to do. I'm just figuring things out as I go. All right, and I know Prime Eye. I'm seeing Prime Eye also. All right, Prime Eye, I'm seeing you, but I'm just not getting you up on the board. I don't know why. Okay, somebody needs to tell me. All right, I think maybe I should be doing something here, which would mean that I go from there. I change that button to this button and see if No, and then everything is gone. All right, I'm not sure what we're doing. Okay, so as soon as someone tells me what to do, I have both WhatsApp and our Studio B up and running. All right, so I'm not sure if you have heard about what's happening in Mali, but that's one of the main reasons we're joining Prime Eye, Murtala Muntari, who is scheduled to join us in a little while. Can someone tell me what's happening with Prime Eye? Also, I think I can give you some background to what's happening in Mali and my own thinking, because I know I hear a lot of conversations about an analysis, very good analysis actually, about the situation in Mali. And, obviously people are talking about France, people are talking about the fact that France must have something to do with this attempted coup. In the Western media, they're calling it a terrorist attack. But we know, because it was so well coordinated, that this was an attempted coup in Mali. There's something that I like to throw in the conversation regarding Mali. And that is, if you recall, and I think I have these stories here, but if you recall, just a few weeks ago, I don't even think it was months, it's weeks actually, just a few weeks ago, and I have to put this in context, so let me step back a bit. So Algeria and Morocco have been fighting over the Western Sahara, this piece of land, for a very long time. I've mentioned this from time to time in this program, and whenever an African country or a global country comes out and say that we support Morocco or we support Algeria, I always talk about that here and to say what that means generally for this struggle and this conflict on the continent of Africa, in North Africa, this fight between Algeria and Morocco for the Western Sahara. And this is a real fight. This is not no joke. This is really serious business. Now, also, one of the things we talk about in this space in terms of that very same situation with Morocco and Algeria is that there is in the region groups, terrorist organizations formed by Western countries, former colonizers, imperialists, and I usually call their names, right? Who are the ones who, for example, started or put together Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda in the Sahel is a construct that happened under Barack Obama's government. Al-Qaeda in the Sahel. When we heard that first, I came to this space and said, well, it's obvious that this was a made-up terrorist group to continue the destruction of the entire territory and the takeover of land for rare earth minerals and others. I've said that many times. It's not the first time I'm saying it. I've said it many times in this space. Now, then it's not just Al-Qaeda in the Sahel. About, was it January or February, I had a series of conversations here about JNIM. And we talked about this terrorist organization, JNIM, this group that's operating in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and the extent to which JNIM was encroaching on Burkina Faso in particular, and the amount of Burkina Faso that it controlled, and how it was using Mali to some extent as a base. We also talked about the FLA, which is a separatist group, right? And they are in Mali, but they're a separatist group that they've been fighting for years. And if you see, okay, all right, I'm hearing somebody here now. and I'm not quite sure who it is, so let me know who is on. It sounds like, all right, so there's a background noise, so let me see if this is Prima. Is that you? No, Natisa, would that be you? Because I'm hearing something loud and clear, and I'm sure listeners are hearing it too.
I am here, but
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear, Natisa.
I am here, but I'm not seeing you. I don't know what.
Well, I'm hearing you. So hang on, don't move.
Yes. I am now back to my computer, so I don't know.
Okay. No. Well.
Once you're hearing me, I'm fine.
Yeah, we're hearing you loud and clear. I really want, and thank you so much for staying on, because this is
Perfect.
this. I think it's very important for us to have this conversation that we were just launching off into, which is to say that you can help us first of all to contextualize what was happening in Parliament. You watched this for a while before what happened and unfolded. So give us a background of what was happening.
Right. So I was the debate itself. I was really focusing on the arguments, the 30 minutes segment for members, because members were given 30 minutes at one point before they started to go through clause by clause. So of course this is of national importance. Devon would have explained all of that. And so I am going to make sure that at the end of the day, I am tuning to what's going to ultimately impact the people. So at some point, the debate was going well, I would say. Going well in the sense of persons were putting forward argument. I must say, Cabo and Jamaica need to understand this. Not everything we have to politicize, right? I made the point earlier that Angela Brownberg is a sister friend, but at the end of the day, I am going to look in really heated long before Dr. Brownberg took up that mess.
So we missed you for a minute.
It was really
we lost you. We lost you for a minute. You're saying things got really heated in Parliament long before Dr. Brownberg took up the mess.
Long before Dr. Brownberg took up the mess.
Yes.
When the member Dawes spoke, and then Nikisha from the South spoke, you had words being thrown in a setting where I believe it was uncalled for, and I started to pay attention. I videoed the scene. I videoed the very part where the speaker was calling out Dr. Brownberg, not because I know that was going to happen, but because the opposition leader made a point.
All right, so we're losing her just the same. And I honestly do not know what's happening. We've lost you. We've lost you.
Are you hearing?
All right, I hear you now. But so you said the opposition leader made a point.
The opposition leader, the opposition made a point about a constitutional impact.
And, well, you do know what's going through my mind, because every time we do certain kinds of programs, So there you have it. We're not hearing Leticia. I think we probably should just go straight to WhatsApp and have her come up on WhatsApp, and let's see if that works, because she's still on Zoom. So Nats, if you're hearing me, and Peter, let's do WhatsApp with. Well, there you go. I hear you. I hear you there, Nats.
Yeah.
This is really very interesting. But go ahead. We're hearing you. I'm going to allow you to talk, and the only time I'll intervene is if we're not hearing you.
Yeah. It says I'm reconnecting. Are you hearing me? I'm on WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp is the best bet.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Mike, but it says the meeting is disconnected.
So she's on WhatsApp now? Oh no, but I'm hearing her now. You know,
are you hearing me, Kabu?
All right, so she's directly in front of the camera. So I don't think Khadija realizes that she's directly in front of the camera. Okay, yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you, Nats.
And you're seeing me?
I'm not seeing you.
Because I'm not hearing or seeing anyone.
So I think
this is so strange.
It happens. It happens when we're having these kinds of conversations. I
don't.
And
if you can hear me well, I'll just. If not, you know, I'll probably not hold the program any longer.
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
No, so I was only going through what the fact that the opposition leader made a point about a constitutional implication. And I went for a constitutional book I had because the Prime Minister later said it didn't have that implication. And I was kind of... Hello?
Yes, hearing you.
Oh, I was in thought. So by that time, as I said, I would have noticed that it was a heated room. It was a lot of throw words going on. I think persons were personalizing it. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. It was really being personalized.
Okay.
And I can call me because if you were watching the proceedings, mm-hmm. you could see clearly, even if people watched back the tape. So Dalrymple from Trelawney got up to make her contribution, and I was there listening. As I said, I'm listening as a Jamaican. I want to hear your points for if you're making points for, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're going to make points against, I am welcoming that also. Mm-hmm. Dalrymple got up, her entire contribution was about the contribution of other members, and that they were electioneering and they were politicizing, and the tone was not a tone that would get it to have a productive end. Yes? Mm-hmm. So I find that I was not surprised when the speaker started shouting, because I believe if it was not one thing, it would have been the other. Mm-hmm. Yes? Mm-hmm. So for me, I was just disappointed at the end of the night that you're having a discussion on such matter of importance, something that will impact Jamaicans for generations, and it started off being a tit for tat. It started off being this personalized thing where if the opposition said something that the government members didn't agree with, I witnessed the mic being turned off. So when people start to make it about Dr. Brownberg and what she did, I argued when I was on social media, taking the objective bystander approach, that one must first look at the context, even long before Dr. Brownberg put out any statement at all, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. About the objectivity and looking at what took place in the context. Yeah. I would have already started to argue for a contextual approach to this conversation, Mace excluded. Mm-hmm, yes? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if
I hear you saying that there was a breakdown in order anyway in terms of how the debate was going. Yes. Which is not unusual in Parliament.
Yes.
So, you know, people, and in any parliament, especially those with the Westminster democracy, that things usually break down like that when people disagree. So, but you're saying that you weren't surprised though that the speaker herself started shouting. And that
person very important and salient points.
Mm-hmm. So what?
When you were seeing when you were seeing what was being counteracted, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning, it was unbelievable, because persons in Parliament to speak on behalf of the members of their constituency, correct?
Yes.
And persons were doing just that. The persons who took objection from a very authoritarian standpoint, mm-hmm, which is what I claim to be unbelievable. Because if I am from West Central St. James, and I know that I am from a seafaring community or whatever, a landlocked, right? Mm-hmm. I am going to know what this bill and the implication of this bill is going to be. Mm-hmm. When I get an equal member of Parliament, what gives another member of Parliament sitting there in a capacity representing other people to not bat for their people, but the opposing me serve. So I find
So at the
to be very not just distant of the people that they were serving. They were not there.
All right, we're losing you there again. I think we've lost
some
you.
of them representing the interests of the people. What this is of who they are part of, which is what was sad, really.
So
I'm saying
your own
my
thinking.
Sister, that
so your own
when
thinking.
Dr. Brownberg attempted to speak. No, I'm saying when Dr. Brownberg attempted to speak on several occasions and thought to herself as a sitting member of parliament, I can't speak for her, but by watching what was happening is why I'm speaking. When she thought, probably, possibly, as she then later said, thought to herself that she was not being heard, etc., etc., I could understand why, if the Mace ends parliament, why that attempt would be to take it up. I don't see it to be something inconceivable. If you're debating and you can't be heard, of course, we can always talk about the colonial remnant and all of that, but I'm saying there's a deeper issue here. The deeper issue is that people vote people in, and there is little representation because party lines will always trump the very issues that people are facing on a ground level.
So at the end of the day, you're saying, Aticia, that from what you witnessed leading into the incident where Dr. Brownberg took up the mace, you're saying it follows naturally onto what happened, and you're not surprised either at the shouting that came from the speaker or the fact that a member did that. And then your own thinking on the...
That's why I have a real live video in my phone of the moments leading up to Dr. Brownberg, not knowing that what would have happened was the lifting of the mace, because, as I said, there was a constitutional point made that I believe should have been taken into consideration, and the Prime Minister said something to suggest it was not a valid point. I, being a person who is a student of the Constitution and trying to know what our rights are under this Constitution, said to myself, no, I had to go look it up. And I was going to make an actual post about it.
Do you remember that point, what it was?
You know, it was no, and I think I'd have to think about all of it, because I don't want to kind of mislead
take it out of context.
The point, right? But it was a point that says the opposition leader was saying that one of the clause where there needs to be ample coverage, in essence, right? The Prime Minister said that no, it is covered in the Constitution, and I said, to my knowledge, I think he was arguing for a broadened definition. You know, when I come on to your program and I'd say we need a broader definition for race, because the Constitution just mentioned racism, but not broaden the definition to say what race is. It was one of those points, right?
Okay.
So I went to say, no, there's not a broadened definition, and we need a broadened definition for that. So that was why I ran to the book, and then started to really intently watch it now to say, so this is how we're going to just go on. Then you had Malawi Ford, who was going through the clauses in a way that would mean that she is looking at the actual scope of the bill, and she was also having a hard time with the speaker. So I believe if it wasn't in an issue with Malawi Ford, and this is me just looking as a Jamaican.
So you know, at the end of the day, you yourself, you're an attorney.
Ford made
Go ahead.
I'm hearing you.
No, I'm saying that you are an attorney, and
no. I paused. You were saying at the end of the day.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I'm saying you're an attorney. You know the law. You also understand that this is His Majesty's Parliament, and that all the relics and all the symbols in there from the seat, them sit down on both sides. It's also His Majesty's government, His Majesty's opposition. Everything in there belong to England and to the throne of England and the King of England. And they say you can't touch the mace. Angela Brownberg has come out and said that she recognizes, I don't want to misquote her, But I think she said she hasn't apologized, but which I don't think she should. But she said she recognizes that
Me neither.
Right. So what did she say exactly? She recognizes that it was wrong to touch a mace?
She stated the obvious.
That it was wrong.
She stated the obvious.
It was wrong to touch a mace?
She stated the obvious. That's what she did.
I hope she never. I'm really sorry that she even said that because anyway. But so she's come out.
Stated the obvious, which.
Hang on for me.
No,
please.
I'm saying she stated the obvious, which was that it's against parliamentary rule.
Okay, brilliant. Hold on there. Let me just take an attorney at law. It is Child Month, and we've looked at the Conventions on the Rights of a Child. We were just wrapping up with Naticia when I just, by the way, said something, and here we are with the by the way. It's still ongoing, and at the minute that we by the way,
we started the whole thing.
We've lost your picture entirely. We're hardly getting your sound, but we're hearing you loud and clear. Let me hear your, as an attorney, and your own personal views on the responses since then, and what you yourself
yeah, man,
think.
you're hearing now, Cap?
I'm hearing you.
Huh?
I'm hearing you loud and clear. What are your own personal
You're hearing
views?
me? I missed that.
Oh, what's your own personal views on the response on the backside of this, and also on what happened? Well, I mean, the touching of a mace.
Yeah, I was posting, and you and I know that I don't post about everything, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start there. Right. I believe that it just show up our entrenched relationship with colonial legacies, and with how far we didn't come. Yes, mm-hmm. After the so-called emancipation, Telly. It was, as you said earlier, that when the MP clobbered his partner, the outrage wasn't meaning everybody right now in Jamaica know Angela Brownberg because of this mace incident. It's not the same other person. And the outrage coming from the government benches about the touching of a colonial relic. If we had the same outrage from them when their counterpart did what he did, we would have had a more favorable tightening of legislations, a more favorable conversation around the gender-based violence. We would have moved the needle more on some of these issues if that caused some of them to jump out on their counterpart the way they did on Angela when she dared, in quotes, to touch that colonial relic. So I don't have any time for some of them. That's my point. Yeah. As an advocate, I have had to be able to be very comfortable with instances of isolation for what is right. I mentioned in the beginning that Dr. Brownberg and I are sister friends, right? But one of the things that even qualify anybody to be a sister friend, so let's start there. So I had no doubt that she had her own reasons for doing what she did. I never quite analyzed it because I understand that she also understands the cultural significance or insignificance of the parliamentary things, right? I leave that to her. I think my point is, when you start to come down on a member of parliament who, in an imperfect system, is still trying to serve the people that she or he represent, and asking or trying to ask fair and pointed questions towards something that is going to impact their lives for generations to come.
And sometimes, when sometimes we have
taking offense and
mm-hmm. Natisa, we're out of time, but I was just saying that sometimes we have to break rules for justice. There's no liberation, there's no justice without breaking the rules. And not all rules are legal or just or make any sense or moral. And like when Barbara Blake Hannah's father jumped in the pool somewhere in Jamaica here when the only white people could go in that pool, and as a black man him jump in the pool, and we learned that in school. Our ancestors have been breaking rules set by the British, the enslavers, from the beginning of time, and hence we can talk about emancipation So we must continue to break the colonial rules, whether it is in Parliament or out of Parliament, because this is the only way you get your liberation.
Or directly or indirectly.
Indirectly or indirectly, we need to break something.
Directly or indirectly, and I'm very proud of.
Especially,
and I'm very proud of Dr. Brownberg for doing what she did.
Yes, when Rosa Parks sat at the back of the bus, she wasn't the first woman to sit when she was told to sit at the back of the bus or to stand. She wasn't the first one. There were other women who were protesting. Right. I think this is how you push against a system that is oppressive, that supports and glorifies and worships colonial laws or rules, and that is how you break the system for constitutional reform. Now, on the back of this, we must talk about constitutional reform. This government under Malahoo Fort spent years talking about constitutional reform. All of a sudden, we are fighting over the mace. If we had constitutional reform, we probably wouldn't be fighting over the mace. I leave it at that. Naticia, thank you so much, my sister.
Thank you, my sister. Even though I can't see you, you only can hear me.
But I saw you before, so that's good. But I don't know what this is, but whatever this is, this was meant to for us not to
rule.
Yeah,
it's divide and rule.
For us not to have this conversation, but here we are. Thank you so much, Naticia Bohar.
All right, have a blessed day, my sister. We'll talk soon.
It is the Africa Forum, and we had the discussion, we had the conversation. However, we had it, and Naticia was clear when you heard her, and we were pretty clear. I'm not quite sure where we go from here, Peter, but you'll tell me in terms of whether we go to Mutala Muntari, Prime Eye, who's standing by in Ghana. Don't know if he is ready to come on. But in the meantime, from Rastakura, he says, Royal greetings, Queen. Please let the listeners know that my brother, Bobby Roydell, a.k.a. Tafari, will be laid to rest this Saturday in the community of York District, Benserton in St. Anne. Night is Friday night. He was a chef that worked at Al Kebelon restaurant in Oturis. Oh, really? Let me see. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, my deepest condolences to Kuro and the family. Oh, my deepest I had no idea. All right. He's worked also at a Shanty restaurant in Kingston, Liberty restaurant in Kingston. He then had his restaurant on Westminster Road before moving to St. Lucia, where he passed. And he said, myself, Turbulence, and other players of instruments will be performing at his night on Friday night. And he was a bigly listener of the Running African. Oh, wow. I had no idea. My deepest condolences to you, Takura, to the family, and to the community. Wow. All right. So do we have my brother Mutala Muntari online? And do I get him through the buzz just the same? It's on WhatsApp. All right. So I think it's Peter Bass. All right, let me go. All right. So it's ringing. Ras TT is calling, but Ras TT, you can't call me now because we're trying to get to our listener online. All right. So our next guest, Mutala Muntari. Prime Eye, are you there? All right. Let me go here. No. All right. So I'm hearing him from there. So if we need to, the connection is poor. So it's just to secure the cable. All right. So Prime Eye? No, it's just a poor connection situation. I think we just take a quick break and come back.
Yes, right here.
You're
loud and clear.
And you are loud and clear on this side. Oh, goodness. Well, listen, you have been in radio for so long that you are quite comfortable with these kinds of hiccups, aren't you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I do understand, so it's good.
Yeah, I remind our listeners that you are no stranger to the Africa Forum. We have done so many programs simulcasting from between the two stations, Jamaica to Radio Gold, over the years. It's been a while since we've made a connection with you, but we're very happy to be back in touch and to have you on program again. And we promise that we'll do another simulcast where we'll be linking live with your studios in Ghana and at the same time broadcasting to Jamaica. This is going to be brilliant again, as usual. Thank you so much, my brother Mutala Muntari, Prime Eye.
You're welcome.
With the very shortened time that we have, Prime Eye, I want to start with, I know you're based in Ghana, but I know that you're also very closely looking at and following what is happening in the Sahel and in Mali in particular. Can you give us the very latest, first of all, coming out of Mali?
Well, as it stands now, is quite turbulent. They just buried the defense minister who was assassinated last weekend as a result of the rebel incursion. They were trying to move down south to Bamako, to the capital in Bamako, and the first casualty was actually Sadio, the defense minister, who was based in Kamara, yes, who was based in Kidal, a city close to Bamako, the capital of Mali. And then recently, about 200 of the rebels were killed. That was last Friday. Trying to get into the capital. What they're trying to do is to get into the capital and overthrow the government of Assimi Goïta. And the Russian African Corps is also very strong in the air, and it's been quite difficult for the rebels to get in. So what they've done a strategic withdrawal from Kidal, and now are fully based in the capital, trying to protect the capital and in so doing protect the government from an overthrow.
So I hear you saying that Kidal, it's strategic, but Kidal has fallen again. But Kidal is an area in Mali that tends to be this kind of a hotspot, isn't it, where it changes hands between the terrorists and government from time to time. So what I hear you say just now is that Kidal has fallen, but you're saying it's strategic.
It's strategic, actually, because of course Pan-Africanists need to admit that it was a surprise attack, and the terrorists came in Malian military uniform. So it was difficult to even differentiate. So most of the citizenry couldn't even differentiate between the terrorists coming in and trying to take over the capital, and the Malian National Military Guard protecting the city. So they came in Malian military uniform with their boots, with all their accoutrements actually, and it was quite difficult. So it was a surprise attack. So so they ended up killing the defense minister, Sadio Kamara, which was quite a big blow. And now the protection is really strongly around the capital, Bamako, just to ensure that we keep the Pan-African front strong.
Yes. And you say a lot of the terrorists have been killed, some 200.
Yes, 200 last Friday. By the Russian African Corps. The Russians have been very helpful, and as a matter of fact, there has been some investigation ongoing since the attack, because there was some bribery as well. So traitors had to be arrested. From the government of Mali side of things, the traitors have to be arrested because we realized that there are quite a number of Malian soldiers, in quote, that were bought by the terrorists. Yes. It's, unfortunately, these terrorists have lots of money, and they are getting some powerful backings from forces outside Mali.
And we've heard from Assimi Goïta, who spoke last week. What did he say? Because I think he attributed this to what you just said: internal and external forces.
Absolutely. What he did was to rally the country around the flag, and then assure the people that the government is going to protect the cities, and ensure that Bamako, as the capital of Mali, doesn't fall to the terrorists. So it was an assurance of safety, of peace, that the citizenry are safe. Yesterday, we had about 800 fuel tankers coming through Bamako, of course, with great air protection from the Russian military corps. So we had 800 fuel tankers because there was some shortage of fuel. So now Bamako can have a respite in terms of the shortage.
That's a lot, and it's interesting because as we talk about what the objective was, I know in the West, the media, when they do report on it, in Jamaica there's hardly any report on it, of course, but in the Western media, the large media conglomerates in the United States and the UK and the rest of Europe, they talk about terrorist attacks, but the Assimi Goïta and Russia Corps have literally said that this was a plot to overthrow the government. This was a coup that they thwarted. This was an attempted coup.
Absolutely, and it makes sense because France has been up in arms since Assimi Goïta took power in 2020. And when you look at the Sahel, the alliance of Sahel states, it's actually Mali, it's Assimi Goïta's Mali that first took power in 2020, and followed by Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso 2 years later in 2022. And then Abdurrahman Tiani in Niger also took power in Niger the year after in 2023. So it appears what they're trying to do is to decapitate the leadership in Mali, just as they've done elsewhere, and overthrow the government, and then take over Mali. And mind you, Mali, among the top 5 gold producers on the continent of Africa, Mali comes second after Ghana. There's Mali is gold. Mali is gold and lots of resources,
rare earth minerals.
So yes.
So has what can you tell us about what the AES, the Alliance of Sahel State, what in terms of response, security for Mali, what's happening so far there? Because obviously we're not hearing anything much from the the Africa Union or ECOWAS, which they withdrew from. What is the situation in terms of the response, the military response, if you will, from the Alliance of Sahel State?
There's been great response from Burkina Faso and Niger. They've sent some military support. That happened almost immediately because they have this pact, this partnership. So if you attack Mali, you've attacked Burkina Faso and Niger. So Ibrahim Traoré and Abdurrahman Tiani have sent some troops and some military help to Mali in order to ensure that the capital is protected. Because it's quite dangerous. If Mali falls, that will be the beginning of the end of the Sahel states, and we do not want that to happen.
No, Mali cannot and will not fall. To what extent do you think that? I know we talk a lot about France, and obviously, when Assimi Goïta talk about the external forces, we cannot and will not leave out France out of this. JNIM has long been a terrorist organization, obviously backed by France. But Algeria, because it was just a few days ago that Mali.
Oh my God! You're raising Algeria. Algeria, go ahead. You're right. Well, Algeria is terrible.
Right. Well, this is you see, I didn't even realize that, because I've been looking at this and I'm saying, but Algeria would have. I think it's just a few days ago that Mali sided with Morocco on the Western Sahara. And there was, we reported it here, where a drone was shot down. Algeria, I think, shot down a Malian drone, and I know the tension was really high. It's to what extent is Algeria a part of this plot to overthrow not just Mali and Assimi Goïta, but possibly to put an end to the Alliance of Sahel state?
Algeria is clearly an ally of France, a former French colony, and they've been strongly connected with the Tuareg rebels. They have strong cultural connections with the Tuareg rebels who've been trying to take over the northern part of Mali. They actually want an independent state in the northern part of Mali, and they're getting great support from Algeria. So Algeria has not been on the side of Africa in terms of the Pan-African worldview. They have actually been against the government and have been in full support of France. And as we well know, Jenim, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, is a creature of France and Western intelligence agencies, and they are well funded. They've given them all that is needed to wreak havoc within the Sahel, and they are also getting great support from Algeria. So Algeria, as far as we are concerned, is such a great disappointment. And we've been trying to protect ourselves from such a state. I mean, it's just been absolutely against the Pan-African Front, against our independence, and against the sovereignty of the African states.
Yeah, it is really bothersome. But I know that obviously Mali won, we won, and as you said when you came on just now, that things are still pretty volatile in the region. We have a minute. Can you explain to us what's happening there? And then also, Ghana is just on the other end of this. Is Ghana feeling threatened in any way by some of what's happening there? I mean, that was a massive terrorist attack against Mali.
Absolutely, Ghana feels threatened. I mean, because we're just a few blocks away from Mali. You get down from Mali down south, you get to Burkina Faso, and the next country you enter is Ghana. So I mean, it's very worrying to see such terror. I mean, it's quite a coordinated sort of effort to overthrow the Malian government, the Nigerian government, and then the Burkinabe government. And these terrorists, these groups are all across the West African Sahel. You find them in Mali, same group. You find them in Mali, you find them in Niger, you find them in Nigeria, actually. And then you find them in Burkina Faso. Ghana seems to be the only country that's not been affected yet by we absolutely feel threatened.
I can just imagine. I'm so sorry, but we're gonna do this again. Hopefully you can come back. You have been really brilliant in terms of just helping us to understand what's happening in Mali there. I'm totally out of time because I do have to take the lottery draw. But Prime High Mutala Muntari, my brother, thank you so much. All the best. Please keep safe. And as Pan-Africans, we stand strong with the Alliance of Sahel State and also with Ghana. Thank you so much, my brother.
You're welcome.
All right. Please look at your maps, take out your maps and look at the region that we're talking about that you just heard mentioned. Ghana, Nigeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, all along that line. Algeria, look at where Algeria is in relation to all of that as we stand by for the Supreme Ventures draw. Exams. So our children are doing their CSEX, they're doing their CAPE, they're doing their GCEs, if they're still doing that in some places in Jamaica. They are doing exams roundabout now. So just a quick note to look out for your children, protect them on the roads. They're going to be going to school at all different times of day because of exams schedule. So pay attention to your children. Parents, look out for your children too. And make sure that they're not stressing out themselves too much, because there's too much stress around exams in Jamaica. If they were paying attention through the year and they were doing their ongoing tests, which a lot of that happens on the island, then, they're more or less okay. And do not we can't have a pit in them, burn out the pit in them from prep school. Yes, it's true, you burn them out from prep school. Why you have, the prep schools in Jamaica are something else. The bags are heavy. Well, see, Professor Andre Horton, he probably don't want me to talk about this. Professor Andre Horton, it's good to have you online.
Morning, Kabu, how are you?
I am very well, if you two are well, sir.
Yeah, man, I am. Morning to your listeners as well.
Morning. So you agree with me that we mustn't stress our children out at this time, exam time? They're actually doing exams now. Not at the time to be beating the book so hard.
I mean, it requires a solid balance. I think that it's important for parents to let their children understand the importance of these exams to their future. Because as you know, this will decide the high school that they go to. And then the high school that they attend will decide how serious, or not so serious, but their perspective on life. However, that doesn't negate the fact that pressure for some students lead to inefficiency. So how my mother did it when I was growing up, she gave me the freedom to take school as serious as I would want to. Mm-hmm. So she had never yet tried to superimpose herself on me to say, okay, X amount or Y amount.
And look how good you turn out. Professor, at 25.
No, not 25.
Well, almost. No, but you are. But Jamaica knows, and the world knows that you're one of our most brilliant Jamaican. You're a scholar. And you're very brilliant. So that just hearing you say that about how your mom, how she dealt with studying and so on, I think that is a motivation for others, in that you're not going to drop your guard, you're not going to leave a child on his or her own. But this thing of when it comes to the exam is a time when you're now forcing to know everything.
No, that's the wrong way to approach it. The thing is, and I think you said a very important point, is that learning begins from day one, and as a result, studying begins from day one. And I've always said it, even to university students, high school students, from day one, 3 hours a day, because the day has 24 hours, right? So you go to school for 8, that means you have 16 remaining. Now, you sleep for 8, so you have 8 remaining. So if you study for 3, it means you have 5 to play. So many people
that's a good way to work it out.
About the sharing up of the time, because as soon as school finishes 3 o'clock, all the way to 9 o'clock, they want to play.
Yeah.
But that can't work in a system like ours. Chinese students go to school for 12 hours. And that is why China is now at the global forefront as it relates to knowledge and the application of knowledge. Indian students as well, they go to school for long, lengthy hours. And that is why they are at the forefront of computer science, artificial intelligence, even space science. So I think that our school system is good. However, the students' understanding of their own responsibility as a person is very important from early.
And I know this is not what you came on to talk about, but I think it's very topical. So let me just throw something else at you, because you talk about the grades you get now will determine the school you're going to go to. Isn't this an atrocity? When are we going to change the status quo? how can we proudly say that? What about equity and equality in education?
Before last week, we have a Monday night group that we link up and we play dominoes. And we discuss national issues. It's a very good group. I was really impressed by them, actually, because, all sort of topical discussions. And one of my friends there, older than I am, Dr. R. Scott, he was very inclined to because he went to Campion, and he was saying he had a discussion with some of his other colleagues as to how can they replicate Campion in other parishes. So the discussion was about replicating a Ivy League high school then. We just use Campion as a name, but Ivy League high school in every parish. But the discussion was also around what is Campion. Campion is a school that is, to most Jamaicans, heavily Americanized and heavily uptownized. What do I mean by that? There are not many, poor pitney is very resourced. Parents understand the importance of academics. The school understand the importance of academics. But the amount of resources that it takes to allow Campion to be what it is.
Is it a private school?
It's not private, but it has a very intense alumni engagement.
Okay, all right.
So it would be like KC, but KC have inner city boys. Campion is more uptown boys, and they heavily alumni. So the past students play an important role. And the long and short of the discussion is that not many schools have that sort of support. And it's not as if you want to replicate Campion. What you want to do is to let the other schools understand the importance of alumni support. Because
isn't it a vicious cycle though? Because it seems to me that if you are putting students who are getting low grades. The reason why students are getting low grades, and I think that a lot of our students are going undiagnosed with autism and all kinds of learning disabilities. They are ending up in particular schools. They are not ending up in the Campions. So that at the end of the day, they themselves, as alumni, when they come out on the other side, are hustling. And can hardly give anything back to the school. And a lot of them have dropped out. A lot of them gone drive taxis and so on. And listen, this is something that I've been paying attention to for a very long time. And I'm not saying taxi driver want to make money. I'm just saying that kind of response that you have with the alumni for Campion and KC, you've already made it so that cannot happen because of how you deal with these schools anyway, in terms of the children that you're sending to these schools. So there's not a mixture, there's not a balance, there's no equality. And the school itself at the state level is not being properly supported by the state itself, and that is why Damian Crawford is doing the very right thing to take some people to court. And I hope that we see more people go court for Why is Damian Crawford taking the government to court? I don't even know. Hold on, let me
find out. I have to get to the top of it.
Let me take a break. I was hearing you loud and clear just before we went to the break. Did you?
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Good. That
was on mute by mistake.
That was you.
Yeah, man. So I heard about it, but I'm not sure. I'll have to call him and find out.
Well, let me Google it. We can Google it.
Yeah, we can Google it. Okay. But I think as it relates to education, and you're right, some schools are more resourced than others. Some schools have a better base than others, and that keeps the cycle of that particular school going. Take Cornwall College, for example, that I went to. I mean, it's a mixture of the good, the bad, the ugly. But we still have a lot of school pride, we have a lot of school spirit, and the alumni does pitch in. So that plays a role.
It's up on the screen. See, it's up on the screen. Is that it? Put it back for me. Oh, that's not it? Oh, okay. All right. I do agree with you, what you're saying in principle, Professor, but I also want for us to stop, and you're in a very good place and I hear you talk about the group that you're meeting with and so on, so I see that you're making the change. But we talk about it a lot, but here we are still where schools are under-resourced, and some are over-resourced, and some are even over-sourced. Principals and teachers are online all the time, begging. This is the situation with education in Jamaica. But maybe
it's very bad.
Maybe it's deliberate. Very bad. Maybe it's deliberate.
I know. You see, a lot of it has to do with the political, philosophical ideology of the country. And what do I mean? You see, back in the 70s, when Jamaica had free education, right, under the so-called socialist approach, if you talk to a lot of 50-year-olds now, 60-year-olds, they benefited a great deal. A lot of them attended university. A lot of them, it was the first time a member of their family would attend university. And they benefited from the whole idea of free education, every child getting the opportunity to really pursue higher education. Fast forward now to 2026, then free education is being viewed as a socialist policy. A policy that is supposed to equip your students with the necessary education that they need to contribute fruitfully to society is now being viewed as you giving handouts to people. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, if you have a more educated society, you have more people who understand the value of knowledge and who are applying such, it means therefore that automatically you're going to have less violent producers. You're going to have less people thinking irrationally, because irrational thinking is also a challenge that we're faced with in Jamaica. And you said, opposition Damien Crawford takes the government to constitutional court over access to education and school spaces. Exactly. So the point is, because everybody is running away from the inclination that they are socialist driven, and you have a lot of countries that are socialist, that are prosperous. You take Norway, you take Germany, you take Switzerland, you take Sweden, you take all these countries are socialist-oriented countries. What do we mean by socialist-oriented countries? Countries that believe that resources should be made available to their citizens, communal resources. In Jamaica, we want to be able to say we're not a socialist country just because we want to have friends or business people who exploit the resources and use our people for labor. So it is a very challenging approach, because on one hand, they want to make their business friends and foreigners happy by saying we're not socialists. And on the other hand, by not distributing educational resources equitably, it puts the country at a long-term disadvantage. So as you say, it's a double-edged sword, but as a small nation, we have to know ourselves. And without knowing ourselves, being pulled in a tug-of-war with international funding agencies as to who you really are and what you should actually do, it creates a challenge as to who we are and what we need to be.
So who are we? And that is going to take us into why you're here. I can just tell you something though, the program from morning, from Dr. Devon Taylor till now, nobody is, we have interviewed, all of the guests who have come on, they came on for a particular thing and we're talking about something else. So we're just working with it because we say that is ancestral guidance.
Yeah, man, knowledge is universal, right. And knowledge is not just discipline specific. Right. I mean, knowledge is your ability to reason, and it is through reasoning that we get new knowledge and new understanding.
Iron sharpened iron, as my father would have said.
Exactly.
So who are we? Because you're saying that we should know ourselves and determine what we want for ourselves. So I want you to answer those two things. In that, who are we? How do we define ourselves or redefine ourselves? Because that's what's happening now. And nothing is wrong with redefinition, but we're just gone off. And then, what do we want for ourselves, or what should we want for ourselves as a nation?
Yeah, ask a very, very important question that I think every Jamaican should wake up in the morning and ask themselves. They should look in the mirror and ask themselves, who am I? And that's from an individual perspective, because the collective eyes come together now to create the universal I, which is we, which is a part of a collective body that really wants to see the advancement of a great tribe of people. And when I use the word tribe, it's not necessarily one set, but it's a collective of people coming together to advance humanity. And Jamaica has an important role to play in this, because we are like the neighbor string of Africa from the other side of the world. So it's like one is the body, one is the umbilical cord, and you can't survive without the other. Jamaica plays a crucial role in the advancement of the black race and the world itself. If you listen to our motto, and I was listening to it, and our pledge really says that we want to play a part in the advancement of the entire human race. And that comes from us being kings and queens for centuries and centuries, for aeons and aeons. And yes, we know who we are. You know why I know we know who we are? Because the slightest person in the garrison, they want to build a mansion for themselves to live in a castle. If you go to the average Jamaican house, it is very, very clean, so they understand cleanliness. If you observe how our understanding, especially the elder people, of different herbs, different spices, and how they relate to health, and the type of herbs and spices that are found in Jamaica, many are not anywhere else in the world. You know what I mean? Like the search me out and the stinging nettle and the this and the that and so on. They're not being employed. So we know that we have a symbiosis with nature that the world should know about, and we try our best. You understand? We drink enough tea, we talk about soursop leaf. These are just examples. When it comes to kingship, when you look at our Jamaican dresses, they will say Jamaican would outdress you like a Senegalese would outdress a person, because we understand how it is to present ourselves in a royal fashion, even though we went through that 400 years of slavery. Remember, if you're looking at time, if you compare 400 years to 4 million years, it's like 4 seconds to 40 years. So we went through slavery for 4 seconds, no problem. Was it sufficient to distract us? Yes, it was, because many of us now still are caught up in understanding from the formal sectors what it takes for us to really remember who we are in entirety.
So it's a matter of when and where we enter. In terms of our memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do we want now? We want to contribute to the advancement of the whole human race. And what does that mean? Since the world invented plastic, the whole idea of pollution has been at the surface. Remember, we don't use plastic. From mere eating, we don't use plastic. From storage, we don't use plastic. For creation of material, for cheer or whatever, we don't use plastic. Who created plastic? All of a sudden, everything now becomes a bulk distribution of stuff. Plastic bottle, plastic plate, plastic fork, plastic chair, plastic table, plastic. And all of this is a simple thing, you know. One thing change the world, you know. Plastic, you know.
No, I know I laugh, but you're making a very good point in terms of how we move away from our knowledge systems, what we know, to embrace other systems. But why do we?
The Roman system, because it's always about love against hate, you know, Rasta against Rome. So it's always about, if you put on a timeline or a love line, to one extreme end is love, which is Rasta. Jamaican people alone go to the world with love. Bob Marley sing about love. When Roman people sing about love, then sing about man and woman love, like me love you and you love me. Them not sing about love of humanity and love of nature, love of animals, love of plants, love of the cycle of life. The only other person outside of Jamaica would have probably sing about love, or probably would have Michael Jackson. And you know, Michael Jackson, him high like that, him have that. I get
the point you're making, that from a spiritual level, we. But to what extent are we moving away from that? And what else are we losing in terms of a knowledge system? Because one of the reasons why you've come is to talk a little bit about the fact that we're facing issues of food security, energy security, and possibly medicine security because of the geopolitical pressures that we're feeling. Right, and these are already ongoing stuff. So it doesn't, to me, it seems that this is a nice segue into looking at that, because it seems if that is true, then we must return to the knowledge systems and return to the source. Your own thinking on that.
So look at it this way. Since 2020, we recognize that the world was entering a phase of global instability, and countries were beginning to isolate themselves from the rest of the world. If you look at England through Brexit, they're pulling out of the EU. You look at the United States, they're practicing what we call anti-globalization policies. Everybody looking at themselves to see who are we, what can we produce, and what do we need to produce, both for our citizens and to trade with the rest of the world so that we can earn income. Now, from Jamaica's point of view, we have not really seen the picture because we are so import dependent. We take import dependence as business as usual. So even when the world has been evolving and we're seeing persons moving towards their own domestic strategies to boost their own domestic economy, we have taken a nonchalant approach. So we have not yet looked at ourselves and said, what are the industries that we can tap into that the world demand? When China was being restructured, that is exactly what they said. They said to themselves, what are the futuristic transformational industries that the world is going to need in the next 50 years, the next 100 years? Upon understanding that, what role can we play to get our citizens involved in this process of production of these primary, secondary, and tertiary goods and services that we can fetch revenue from the rest of the world in order to buy and to consume what we need domestically as Chinese? And on top of that, what are the hiccups that we're going to face? What kind of hindrances do we need to overcome in order to accomplish this? Coming out of the 60s, we were very poised to become a developed country. We started light manufacturing, we expanded more in bauxite, and tourism became a thing. After the first oil price shock in 1973, that plus Manley's socialist-oriented policies, a lot of Jamaicans started to think more selfishly about who they are and what the country is and how our economics is going to take us across the frontier. And I think that was a defining moment, because that is the moment when socialism became, beside capitalism in people's mind, beside communism, in people's mind, and it became a bad word. It became a bad word. So with socialism becoming a bad word, it means therefore that the orientation of people's minds started to become capitalist.
Hold that point. Let me economics at the University of the West Indies. He specializes in macroeconomic engineering with a research focus on international economics and macroeconomics for small country development. He's a former senator and an International Monetary Fund distinguished academic fellow. He is a KPMG Pete Marwick scholar, Thomas Delarue scholar, and a British Commonwealth scholar. See me, they tell you for morning, same with Bright. And you see mother never pressure. And his mother was right there ensuring that he did it, but didn't pressure him at the end. It is an ongoing thing, and you hear him talking. So you're saying that there was a time when that which we know, right, became synonymous with something else, and then we ourselves turned our backs on it because we wanted to be friends with others who also saw this as anathema.
Exactly. So if you look at how China does capitalism on a shared basis. So whatever research is being done, they have different clusters of research taking place. For example, Shanghai deals with finance, Shenzhen deals with technology, Guangzhou deals with manufactured goods, and so on and so forth. So they cluster their production. Fungi deal with furniture, whatever the case may be. And whatever knowledge is being established, it is shared between all the companies. So there's no patent. So you come up with something, Kabu, I can use it. I come up with something, you use it, and we help to make our products improve and the best through the ricochet of me and you and whomever else is there. Now in Jamaica, our capitalism turned into selfishness and protectionism. So a lot of the companies that say that they are big companies are being protected by government policy and by contracts and so on and so forth. So the other small companies don't get the amount of knowledge, they don't get the amount of support, they don't get the amount of ricochet of ideas from your company to mine to allow me to grow. It's about, okay, this person funds the government, so this person gets leeway, this person is a friend of the government, so this person gets benevolence, so that's the approach that we take to business. So it does not foster the level of competition that we need in order to race to the top. What it does, it demotivates people and forces them out of that production process. And what they have done is that the industry is established in a trickle-down effect. So big businesses established, they hire you, you get paid wages, and you must automatically survive on those wages. You must not have any more ambition than those wages. So you must forever live in a board touch house because you work at a hotel for 60 years, you get minimum wage, you could never build up a building block, you can't send your people to school, you can't get good health care, you don't have any pension, so you must work after 65, and that cycle has continued. So there's no room for growth. Everybody is suffocated.
So what is the end? What's the end result of that? Where does that
end
lead?
Result? A liar and thief, because there are people who now are going to look at the system and said, I cannot fit in. I went to Kingston Technical and I won't be able to get a job at JMMB, or I won't be able to become the head of Scotiabank in the next 30 years. So there's no motivation, there's no ambition. So where does the ambition lie? The ambition lies in the glorification of dons. So Miss James' daughter and her son went to America. They sold cocaine or ganja, or they involved in whatever racketing over there. They make big money. They come back in the garrison. They build big house. I want to be like Miss James' son. So my ambition has never been to participate in the legal economy and to become something progressive and contribute towards the development of the country, because it does not facilitate that. So my ambition is to become like Miss James, become a vigilante, come back, get glorified like a don, and the cycle continues.
The cycle continues. This is the point I want to make, because then you create a new culture. So we're becoming something. Because if this is a cycle, this to what extent does this move from the subculture to become that which we are becoming as a nation?
You know, when I went to the university, I've been there since 2000. So I've been in the university system for 26 years. So I started teaching, I went there 2000, I started teaching 2003, I started lecturing 2005. So I've been lecturing in the university system for, 16 years. 16 years is close to a child being born and becoming an adult. So you know, say 16 years that. So I'm around persons, young people who academically inclined and want better for themselves, and I'm a mentor to them. We have the Valley Foundation. When I joined politics and I went back to Mount Salem, where I'm from, I realized that academics and persons who take on to academics were anomalies from the garrison scenario. So you have like out of the entire community, 5 students who go university, and they are praised. Them say, Miss Joyce down the road, fear son I go UWI, and them would have point out, and they point out of 30,000 people, you know, them point out 5, you know, say them go university, you know, which the other 29,995, you know. caught up in a garrison mentality, garrison type living, day-to-day hustling, with the same aspiration of their son becoming a Don and earning resources not through the legitimate means. So the politics open up my mind for say, rotted. Jamaica still in us, because I was at the US so much amongst people who want education, going into the garrison and realize that people said, "So education a waste of time." So the mentality is money, money, money. I want money. I must do whatever it takes to get the money. It's just the end game, because money can send a pitney to school, money can send him to hospital, money can pay police if you get in a problem, money can pay judge, money buy a plane ticket, money make you travel the world, money make people respect you, money make you understand?
So, well, but that's true. It's no lie that money is what makes a mayor run. So how do you balance what we say to our young people?
Look for him, a bank him a work every day and dress up in a jacket and tie and for me car, a hot car for him. Watch me bees. I online my drive every day me see him in dress up in a jacket and tie and
a little TikTok me have is a little TikTok account me have which me 5 million.
I'll teacher. Me teacher shut up our mouth, but me no pass maths and me no pass this. And look for me bees. Teacher me care 4 times there and for you. Me sure me not have to ask that teacher.
So Andre, what you saying? Professor Andre Horn, what are you saying? What we doing what you just said? Where we put it and how we deal with it.
So I'm showing you the Jamaican reality. Because you have what is called also the absorption of excellence. Now, what is the absorption of excellence? The absorption of excellence is that when students attend school and they do well, the society that they matriculate to has the ability to absorb them in such a way that their excellence is rewarded in a growth process where they can keep becoming more excellent and they get rewarded for that. You know, when people say when them see me, you can't say anything because you're bright.
Well, we just get a text a while ago, all the way from Tunisia, we say, his mother never have to do nothing to him because I'm born bright. His mother didn't have to push him because he was born bright.
So they're saying that I can be easily absorbed into the system where I am compensated because I am an anomaly, which is not so, because there should be. You see, in America, it is very easy if you want to access education and to become somebody. I am not talking about Jamaican people who run off, go over there and can't find a way of getting at the real system. I am talking about what is available for students who leave high school and the options that are available to them to filter themselves in the system. Now, there are many Jamaicans who left here, go America, find the loophole, because there is the loophole, and Jamaican good at finding these loopholes. You know, They find the loophole, they get a higher education, and they filter themselves into the system so well. Some of them become millionaires, some of them become billionaires in foreign money. Them go over there without anything. Them find the same loophole like the Jews, the same loophole like the Indians and the Chinese. Domestically, that is not present. And that is why the leadership that is afforded to the country is important, because it cannot just be rhetoric as usual. Oh, we face a challenge in education and students cannot access this and and we're going to make education this and No, we need a real transformative approach to say how many schools are failing. How many students attend these schools? What amount of resources it's going to take for us to bring these students up to scratch? What is the philosophy of thought that we're going to inculcate in their minds for them to have that ambition? How are we going to get Marcus Garvey theory into these schools for them to understand that as a black person, you're born a king, and the confidence that you exude is going to be the fuel that propels you to become somebody? How are we going to say, okay, righteousness is more important than folly, so that if you are more righteous in your thinking, then the positive energy that you send out is going to build an armor around you and going to elevate you to stop. our people have it say, wicked people make it in the world. You know that?
Yes. But why is there this dearth at the leadership level? Because you're talking about 1962 to now. A whole heap of years that. So why are we not seeing the kind of change, transformative change that you're talking about?
See, when China had their revolution, China's revolution was about China for Chinese. Just as though, because they learn from three people, and I say this all the time, when I speak to the Chinese government and I speak to their economists and how they have developed the fabric that China has woven today, that fabric was woven on the foundations that Marcus Garvey laid for us as Black people. So they didn't only learn from Buddha, they learned in contemporary times from Karl Marx, who Marxism talked about compensational labor. They learned from Lenin, who is a communist from Russia, and they learned from Marcus Garvey, who through his writings, first thing that China did coming out of the 1930s, their leader at the time, was to establish a free movement newspaper for Chinese, just as how Marcus Garvey established that newspaper for Black people. And they used that medium to transcend the Chinese communist movement's ideology across the length and breadth of China, because at that time, China was like a muddy puddle. It was very underdeveloped in the 1930s. And the point I want to make is that of the 49 founding members of the CPC, which is the Communist Party of China, that was instrumental in creating the modern China we see today, 42 of them were affluent Chinese, rich Chinese, people who have their money already, wanted to see the rest of China elevate. In Jamaica, people who have their money already don't want to see the rest of Jamaica elevate. They see the place as a bird bush to exploit, where the others of us are slaves and they are massa. So those 21 families and adding, those corporation owners and adding, see the place as a place where if all of us are rich, then Black people are going to become too rebellious. We're going to have Black leaders, and they won't have a line of demarcation to say we are better than them anymore.
Yes, finish your sentence.
Yeah, so the idea of we are better than them is a part of the Jamaican culture that has been embedded in business and learning and our ability to aspire.
And it takes us right back where we started, which is, why do you have some schools that are given the resources, that operating at a certain level, and you have some at a certain level? This is Clark Ray Horton. We're in the last segment of our conversation with him, and we have a listener, K. Ezekiel. Good morning. How are you doing, my brother? He says the oligarchy don't want any elevation of the people here, which is basically the point you're making, Professor Horton.
Yes, it is. I mean, even myself, who many people might think is bright and brilliant or whatever the case may be, I receive pushback from a lot of these people. One, because of who I am. I know who I am, so nobody can tell me who I am or try to make me feel more or less than who I am. And because they can't push and pull you, then to them you are useless to them, and as a result they don't want to facilitate you in their so-called system to help to maintain that particular slavery hierarchy dynamics, because a lot of brilliant people get caught up in the wave, right? You get hired and you become friends with these people, and all of a sudden you are now them. And it's like you start looking down or looking sideways at the other Jamaicans, and you start belittling their efforts, you start criticizing their ambitions, and you start hoarding resources away from them. And when I went back to Mount Salem to contribute, a lot of people look at what I was doing. They looked at it and said, I'm stupid. I shouldn't go back down there. I shouldn't try to motivate people. I can tell you something, a simple thing as when I went on profile with Ian Bowen to talk about my journey coming out of the inner city of Mount Salem and elevating to higher academics, I was told not to do it.
Really?
Because the so-called system would know my background, and even though I am smart, they would try to, let me not use the term ostracize, they would try to marginalize me from participating fully in the so-called system that they have created.
So what makes this, how this system work? How that system work?
But may I try to figure it out like yourself in a caboo? Because up to now, I don't find myself in there and I'm going to get the love from them.
Yes, goodness gracious. Yeah. Well, you don't even get in the truth. Well, you may have forgot to that, but I'm not telling you to do this, but it seems to me as if one way to cross over into that system is through the lodge, because it seems a lot of what is
man. I have a lot of friends who are Masons in the lodge, but what I've always told them is that if the architect don't really draw the blueprint, the Mason don't have a block to lay. And I've always seen myself as above them. So they know too that the knowledge that they have in the lodge is 1/10 of the knowledge that I possess organically in every regard, along every spectrum.
But are they allowed in the system?
All the books that they have read, all the knowledge that is available to them, I have 10 times that amount of books, 10 times that amount of knowledge. The frequency that I vibrate on is light, is like light air, is the blue part of the fire that you can't really see. So they know that on a level, they and I are not on the same level because they are being used by the system. We create the system. So I'm not living my life to get connections from people. I have a lot of friends who are a part of the lodge and they look up to me a great deal, and in order for them to have a level of reasoning or hold a level of consciousness, they still have to seek me out outside of the lodge to have a good discussion.
And the point is well taken, and the point I was making, Prof, is to say in Jamaica, because classism is what it is. Rex Nettleford has written extensively about this, and I suppose we can revisit some of his writing on this. But it seems to me as if there's a leveling somewhere in the lodge system. And I'm not saying it's true. I don't know. I'm just saying that there seems to be a leveling there in, equal injustice for everybody, no matter who you are, where you come from.
Yes, it appears so. And it appears that you're given the fair share of linkage that you need in order to become the person you want to be. My mother always told me that no matter what happens in life, always remember that I wasn't born a twin. I was born alone. And she said that to me for me to remember that no matter what I am going through, if the next person isn't going through it, don't feel no way because you were born alone. So you have to face that journey of life, irrespective of what collective group you become a part of. You have to face that journey alone. And that resonated with me because I've never seen myself to be a group thinker. I've never seen myself to be a group learner. And I've always contributed towards the advancement of groups, but groups have never really contributed to my own advancement in the same ratio or the same type of way. And the thing is, if I saw where the lodge was contributing towards the advancement of a nation of such remarkable people, then automatically, without saying, then I would be a part of it because that would be where I'm naturally drawn to. So I'm not drawn to a movement or organization simply because I want self-grandiozation or I want to be seen as somebody who is elevated in society. I'm drawn to a particular group when I recognize that that group understands its role as leaders and that group understands its responsibility that it must demonstrate to the remainder of society as to who we can become collectively.
Well
so that
said.
has always
well
been
said.
my thinking and my approach.
My colleague, who works in radio in New York and is an attorney at law himself, St. Marianne, him call himself, they talk about alumni. All right, so Ian Forrest is writing in. So Ian says, how do we even up the scales when basic school children in government or government-sponsored schools are paying for extra lessons in reading, not to mention all the extracurricular stuff that seemingly should be part of the regular curriculum. So not even yet in grade 1, and it is already a case of haves and the have-nots in learning how to read.
Yes, I went to extra classes. I didn't have to, but my mother ensured that I did. There are a lot of persons who don't value education, but reading is the foundation, because reading is comprehension, and even mathematics, you must be able to understand it. If it is written in words, you can comprehend. And he's right. The idea is this. It's not as if a teacher in a government school is less equipped to contribute towards the advancement of their students when compared to a non-government school. But what happens is that the type of students that go to those type of schools don't have the at-home support that they would need in order to become proficient within that particular system. But having recognized that system, because China also recognized that in their population, and that is why students in many provinces go to school from 9 to 9 or from 8 to 8, because they know that America is in front of them. They have a 50-year plan to get our population to run neck and neck with America. And they get the entire buy-in from all the population, all the municipal leaders, all the community leaders, all the academic leaders, and the parents also buy into that particular system. And from buying into the system, then it becomes a national agenda. For Jamaica, it's always about Mr. Big Man there, oh, see the Dan over there, so, oh, there. It's never about your son can elevate, all of us can elevate, and a rising tide will lift all ships.
It's going to take a paradigm shift. Noel Myrie, thank you, my brother Noel. He says, very good program for morning. Tell Professor Horton not to give up on his political ideologies. I think his intention is to really uplift the youths and people of this country. Have you given up on your political ideologies?
No, it's not giving up, but it's like sometimes when you're on the field, you're not seeing the game properly. So you have to ask your substitution, go in your stands, look into the game and see the errors that you were making. Because sometimes your coach or your manager, point it out to you, you know. Because want you look a fool to the people, them, you know. Because them really know why you make it neither, so I coach them, you know.
So you ask your substitution?
You have to come out and coach yourself.
So you're coaching yourself now. You ever put yourself in charge of
because
yourself?
I said it. Ever since I've entered politics, and it's the same reason, according to them, I'm difficult to manage. Because they want you to approach leadership from their political vantage point, when their political vantage point has been a failure to themselves and to the people. So if you are going to become a part of the political movement and you are going to follow the same political routine, it means therefore that you're going to end up at the same political destination. And I'm repelling that. So because I'm repelling that follow through, then they say that I'm difficult to manage. Okay. And as a result, I haven't gotten anybody to take me up in hand ever since Edward Seaga died as a mentor to say, okay, you can approach it this way. All the mentorship I'm receiving is to become a kiss-ass part of the system.
But carefully, listen, can I dump it? No, I think it's fine. But okay, we give out it for money. This is the second one. We're not giving you any more.
All right, I won't take any more.
But we're out of time still. We're out of time. But we get the point that you're making, that this is basically politics. It reminds me of, from a different perspective, of what was the politician's name who was down here again, from Tropical Battery, who went to Barbados, who owned Chucker Cove, who was part of the IRFM board. Anyway, but I remember when he stepped away and he said, that he finds that he's only going to funerals. And and so on, and he there's and what was expected, and so you don't remember that politician? Somebody need to remind me of the politician.
I think I know the Chococo guys. Right. I know them very well, but I don't want to call it the names just to make any errors.
I'm gonna get you somebody. Noel Mary, text me because I think you know it. So all right, but so, Professor, we're out of time, Andre Horton, but there's quite a whole lot of text coming in, a whole lot of messages, because people are really moved by our conversation this morning. And you see, we were supposed to talk about food security, energy security, and medicine security, but I think we can always revisit that. It was important for us to have this discussion this morning.
The discussions about consciousness is very important, but I haven't been able to have these discussions because the frequency that a lot of the people vibrate on is on the discussion of Masika singing a good song, or Usain Bolt running a good race, or Chris Gayle building a mansion.
Yes,
so I don't really get the chance to have these discussions often enough.
Please come back.
Because a lot of the people that we have around us are not inclined to these sort of discussions. So most of the times I've had to reason with myself as to how should I approach this, what I should do. And it's important because persons like yourself, Cabo, through the airwaves and the medium that is exposed to you, have the responsibility to really create the platform for these sort of discussions on a national level. Because Jamaica, we need it. Because a lot of people need to remember who they are. And that is why I like this idea of running Africa. Because as Muta said, a cow born in a pig pen is still a cow. And we haven't recognized that we are in a pigsty. We are assimilating the ways of the pigs for so many centuries that we forget to recognize that we are really lions, and we really are kings and queens in any aeon, in any epoch, in any era. Because the lack of resources, if you look at this young man, Kalaputix, who is from Ethiopia, who is leading the fashion industry now, using sticks and stones, old shoes, bottle caps. Have you seen him, Kabu?
Yes.
Remarkable.
Yes, remarkable.
That is in
phenomenal.
his DNA.
Yes. It's interesting you mentioned that because I just saw him recently. This is interesting that you mentioned that.
That is in his DNA.
Yeah.
That is the heights of fashion. You know, on the continuum, you have simple and you have sophisticated. The heights of sophistication is simplicity. And that is what ignorant Jamaicans, and I use ignorance loosely here, not to mean ignorance meaning you cannot read. It's ignorant to the consciousness of self, which is who you are as a person. And the money aspect of things has blindfolded so many people. So a man no feels say he's well dressed if he not have on a Louis Vuitton. A woman no feels that she well dressed if she not have on a YSL or a Chanel bag.
I invite you back. We have to we're going to pick up from right here, so you have to come back. Next week on Mother's Day, so we have to push it to the other week.
All right, definitely.
Please come back.
And blessings to your listeners as well. But the consciousness is important.
I'm going to leave it with K. Ezekiel. He says Professor Horton is a revolutionary.
Jesus Christ. No, a transformative. And we need to stay away from that term.
We're good with the revolutionary. The revolution will not be televised. Thank you so much, my brother. We talk soon.
Yeah, blessings and love, Kabu, every time to your listeners as well.
And the Bengal Development Limited for mining unconstitutional, and she will be joining us on the phone lines. I think you have heard by now that, let me turn this down, that Jamaica's Constitutional Court ruled that the mining permit given to Bengal in the Dry Harbor Mountains, let's just say that because a lot of people do not know where Bengal is, but it's a Dry Harbor Mountains. The mining permit is unconstitutional. The court declared the 2020 environmental permit granted to the Bengal Development Limited unconstitutional, void, and of no effect. And Wendy Lee joins me on the phone line to talk a little bit about that. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming on. All right, I'm not hearing Wendy. So, but I know she's there. All right, on the phone. And we're trying to, can we take off? All right, so can we clear the Zoom? Wendy, are you hearing me? No, not at all? We're trying
hearing you, but
yes, I'm hearing you now loud and clear.
Okay, I'm on my cell phone because
yes,
of all.
You're very
the
clear.
Wi-Fi the internet has gone for this morning.
So well, we've been having quite a bit of that this morning. So let's just work with it. I think, at least you are very, very clear. So just so it's that loud and clear.
That's good. I hope the birds keep the racket down in the background.
Oh, we welcome that too. All right. So Wendy, congratulations. I mean, this has been a labor of resilience and a struggle for justice that has been going on for a while.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much for the work you're doing. Give us a background to this this court case. I mean, it's more than a court case. This been going on for a while until it ended up in the court. So walk us back a little. Give us some history.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Most people heard about all of this because of the court case.
Yes.
But, that beautiful area that we call Portabuena Mountain, it's just west of Discovery Bay. For decades, it had been recommended for protection because of its absolutely unspoiled biodiversity. Dry forest, a rare example on the coast. It's a raised reef. Too, it has a fossil record of about 10,000 years. So it's been very special and recognized, and was actually recognized in the St. Anne Development Order, and very specifically described, and an order made in that development order that it should be protected, the landscape, the scenic value, and nothing should be done to destroy the character of that area.
Yes.
So when the land had been bought by these private people connected to the people who are now the same people who are applied to do the quarry, and in 2004 or so, they actually allowed a quarry to start. It was established and started. We knew that it had no planning permission and no permit or anything. And it caused a lot of problems to the residents, dust and blasting, and it was a horrible thing and shouldn't have been allowed.
Yes.
But when they protested, the government came and said that it was in the national interest, they were going to allow it to continue to supply the marl for the road that was going through. So we had to just put up with it. But that was, in Jamaica, they regularize things. It's quite a, unfortunate practice. So we continued. Northern Jamaica Conservation Association, with the residents of the area, have, long advocated for it to be properly protected. And we did a study. We had a grant from the FAO, and we did a study in 2007 that looked at all the assets of that area. We had a big public consultation with over 50 people, and we had overwhelming support for the area to be conserved and protected and maybe used for. We submitted a big long list of alternative uses to quarrying or development, recreational, and national park, educational, all kind of things, and it was ignored. Then in 2010, the owners tried to apply to put a big quarry on the site, a huge quarry, and dig it down. And with all of this information coming forward, we got to the point where they were then requested to do an EIA because no EIA had been asked of them. So it sort of laid low, and then it came back again in 2019 that we heard about this public meeting and they were being considered for another permit. So at that point, everybody was so concerned. And we all, a huge contingent attended the public meeting in 2019. NEPA got something like 40 letters of objection, and a lot of concerns were raised. And lo and behold, the NRCA refused to grant. This is an environmental permit. It is the first step. It's not a mining permit. It's the first step that you need to take before you go further. So they refused it, and we were like, finally, we've won.
Right, on the side of the people. Yes.
Yeah, and this is in like May 2020. We got the good news. Lo and behold, in November, we get a letter saying, "Oh, the people appealed and it was allowed, so they have the permit." And it was like, what? We were not notified of the appeal. We didn't have an opportunity to we couldn't get any information about it. There was no justification provided. And, it was allowed by supposedly Leslie Campbell, an minister acting in that ministry.
Yeah.
But really, in the end, we realized it was coming from higher up.
Right. Because all the reports are saying it was the Prime Minister at the time.
Right, because the law, the NRCA Act, this was an environmental permit issued under the NRCA Act, Natural Resources Conservation Authority Act. And the minister happens to be the Prime Minister, because the NRCA has been put under the office of the Prime Minister.
Yes,
the Prime Minister's office. It has a big long name. We've heard it.
Yes.
So he is actually the minister responsible, and he has the power to overturn a decision. But what the court case has shown very, very clearly, he does not have the power to authorize any activity which is in conflict with the development order.
And this, I think, this is interesting, because I want you to kind of back up for me and to say, so the ruling from the Supreme Court is that is it the Prime Minister that doesn't have the authority, or this is generally it goes to whoever heads this? It says the Prime Minister.
Yeah, he just happens to head the ministry of which the NRCA falls. But let me just finish clarifying the point.
Yes.
The decision, the environmental permit is issued by the NRCA board. The minister in charge technically has the power to overturn a decision. However, what the court ruling has confirmed is that this cannot be done in contravention of other laws that are governing what happens there. And the Town and Country Planning Act very clearly states that the minister can authorize activities that are not exactly specified under the law, but he cannot authorize anything that is in conflict with the development order. So one of the main points that we had been making all along is that this area is declared to be a protected area under the development order, and furthermore, it is not a quarry zone, and no quarry is to be allowed in an area that is not a quarry zone. So these are some of the first points that the judges highlighted in their ruling.
Yes,
that this is what it said. It said the decision supported development on land where the available evidence plainly showed significant environmental risks and a clear conflict with planning and environmental laws.
Yes.
So there was no rationale or evidence to support the decision of the Prime Minister to overrule the NRCA. And up to this date, we have not had any evidence or no explanation. And the judges said that cannot stand.
This is Yes, go ahead.
And just also to point out the difference between the earlier advocacy and battles. We did not have the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms in 2010 or in 2004. It came into being in 2011, which clearly provides that we have a constitutional right to enjoy a healthy and productive environment, free from the threat of injury or damage from environmental abuse. And what they always miss out is this other part, degradation of the ecological heritage. That is a point that people seem to just, even the press reporting on all of the, press reporting since the ruling, they just omit that.
And why is
crucial?
Why is it so crucial, Wendy, this line of degradation of?
Well, the ecological heritage is something that we inherit. We inherit the nature, the natural beauty, the ecological services of this fantastic island. And if we destroy everything, or if we destroy the most special parts of it, such as the Dry Harbor Mountain, we have nothing to pass on for the future. Are we, one of the problems with the development decision-making is everything seems to be dealt with on a one individual basis. They don't look at the cumulative impact of one after another areas being lost. So the ecological heritage is important in its own right.
Yes.
And it as the judges said, it added an intergenerational aspect.
Wow. This is phenomenal, isn't it? Because even the language, talking about the constitutional right to a healthy and productive environment, emphasizing that constitutional protection applies to likely harm, not just actual damage. In other words, the permit posed the risk even before the damage occurred. What does this mean for? I don't know if you have looked at this yet and you have had conversation with the lawyers and among yourselves, but what is your precedent in this? Do you know? Others?
Sorry, say the last part of your question.
Is there a precedent in this? Is this precedent set?
Oh yes,
yes,
absolutely.
Brilliant.
We've had this charter from 2011. This is the first time that provision has been tested in the court, and I am so thrilled. We're getting a lot of congratulations. The claimants, the legal team. I want to congratulate the judges. I mean, we're not allowed to do that
go right
personally,
ahead.
But honestly,
yes,
they made a detailed and comprehensive analysis of all the issues, and the paperwork was voluminous. They had to go through the EIA and all of the advocacy documentation that we submitted to them for the 20 years, prior. And they took the time to go through it, and they've made very, very thoughtful, 10 really thoughtful points that they based their ruling on.
Yes.
One I already told you, it was in clear conflict with the planning and environmental laws, and there was no rationale.
Is there anything else that you want to underscore for our listeners? Because obviously this is not just about the mining project, it also establishes environmental protection as a constitutional right in Jamaica.
Right. It's not just for these people that are in Discovery Bay area or the environmentalists. It applies to all Jamaicans. It is all this establishes that we do have this right, all of us.
It's brilliant.
Also, there are two other points that I want to really make clearly.
Yes.
In terms of the EIA process, it shows that it's not enough now to just go through the motions of having public meeting and collecting information. Decisions about development must be rational, and they must reflect the obligation of the state to protect the environment. Not just say, we did all of that and we're still going to let it happen. I'm sure you know about, the Roaring River development and how we objected.
Of course.
And, they're telling us about how them can move bird nests out of the path of the bulldozer.
I know.
Stupidness. And one of the judges said, if the conditions are meaningless, a condition that can't realistically be fulfilled is not a safeguard. So they can't use these ridiculous mitigation measures to say the thing can go through. So I would really like to see going forward a threshold beyond which NEPA does not accept applications because they look straight at the laws, straight at the significant impacts and the zoning, and they simply should not accept applications that clearly contravene, first of all, the laws, the planning, the zoning, and that cannot be mitigated.
And I hear you talk about NEPA, and obviously now we're talking about NARA, and NARA is interesting because it would like to place it within this ruling and see what comes out of that. But
absolutely.
But to what extent do you think that? Well, I know you think, but to what extent does this highlight and strengthens the community power? Or shows community power to challenge these kinds of developments, because this is community. This is the people.
It is very, very difficult, and I cannot overstate the value of the Office of the Public Defender. We have an institution in Jamaica that you can go to and ask them to look at your case to see whether it has merit, and if they see a case that has merit, a credible threat to the environment, and, you can get funding that, they take over and pay for a legal team. They don't go to court, but they pay for the legal cost of going to court. That is the only way we were able to do this, because we would have never been able to afford it. And the Pear Tree Bottom case from 2006, if you remember.
Yes.
That was a different type of case because we didn't have the charter. We had it was a judicial review of the decision to grant the environmental permit in that case. And we had pro bono from Don Cox, Dennis Morrison, and we, again, incalculable value. But, we won the case in that regard, on that the permit shouldn't have been granted, but because the people built, in fairness to them, the government, allowed them to keep it. But now they've got to pay attention to the fundamental environmental issues.
Yes.
In their development decision making.
This is brilliant, and once again, I don't know the extent Jamaica knows the work that you do behind the scene. You and your team behind the scenes. It's phenomenal, the work that you continue to do.
Thank you very much. We had to wound up not NJCA in 2014 because we just couldn't survive. There was no institutional support. So it's not really a team, it's just a group of people.
A group, goodness gracious.
Just a group of people. People that know, and concerned. We stuck our necks out.
Yes. This is brilliant, though. Wendy, say congrats to the team. I'm sure they're getting it all over. But we just can't underscore enough in this space, in the Africa Forum, on an IRF and on the station IRFM, how much we are thankful for this ruling, how much we congratulate you for the work that you have done. And just to say, wow, this is a landmark constitutional decision.
Onwards to the cockpit country.
Onwards to the cockpit country, to the beaches, and still to Roaring River, because we are not giving up Roaring River. Thank you. I know what you're going to say.
They've cleared it. So
I know they've already changed the course of.
They've cleared it,
but we're going to change it back, or the rains will change it back.
Well, thanks so much for allowing me to, to have this conversation.
And to you too, Wendy. Thank you so much, Wendy Lee.
Okay.
There, listen, a phenomenal woman in Jamaica. She's been working really hard behind the scenes. She's an environmentalist and first claimant to the Bengal Development Limited mining. You've heard the ruling, as I said before. It is a landmark constitutional decision. In Jamaica, it sets a precedent for environmental rights enforcement. It limits ministerial discretion in approving projects. And so that takes us to NARA, and it strengthens community power to challenge developments. This is, look at it, we've been putting it up on the screen, right, Peter? And yeah, it's been up on the screen. So if you go back and watch on YouTube, then you will get a good idea of what we're talking about. Or you can just Google it. The ruling is out there. Just before we go, because here we have collision, because the birthday boy is not here. The birthday boy is not here. So Romain is in the house. But just to quickly say that we saw an article written by Alan Bernard, Senator Alan Bernard, in the newspapers. Very good article. If I can remember the title of it, I can't tell you what it is. I think I do have it because I did send it. All right, so let me see if I can find this article. I am not going to be reading it, but just to tell you the title, so you can go and read yourself. So the article is out there. All right. Alan Bernard, enshrine Rastafari rights in Jamaica's constitution. That's the article. Please get a read of that. And it reminds me, though, that we did a program here with the RMO and other groups of Rastafari on the eve of Groundation Day. And out of that discussion, and even before that discussion, the RMO, there you go. The RMO actually wrote and sent a letter to Minister Grange, not a confrontational letter, as you know, but in the spirit of partnership, where they were reiterating their request for a meeting, which was similar to the meeting that the RMO had in December, that they asked for in December in 2024. So far, though, I can probably link with the RMO, but I don't think that they've had a response, or else would have heard, and we could carry that response this morning or any other time. But just say to the RMO, if you've had a response from the Ministry of from the Ministry of Culture, from Minister Grange, please let me know so I can mention. But as far as I know, there's been no response. How are you doing? Romain, grab a microphone, Kyle. Okay, you're there, you know. I will not go like, there. Look at my, yeah, there you go. See you there. Right.
Good morning. Good
morning. How you doing?
I'm great.
Yeah. So you're in for the birthday boy.
Right.
Where is he? You never know, do you?
Idea.
You never know. Please put the camera on with me, because he's not camera shy. So take it up and be put it on him. Totally. There you go. See there. Why you take off your head? I mean, it was good. It was all right, you know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a better look.
Oh, there you go. But you know, I mean, we're real around here.
Right.
Not because you wear lip gloss and all that. All right. So, how you do? Generally speaking,
I'm okay. Right. I'm back from break. So
yeah. So I heard you were out and about. Which part you go?
All over.
So you're not telling me either. I never know what you guys are doing. Peter, make sure you know that we're not telling him nothing when we are doing.